This kid has the audacity to ridicule seasoned professional fighters, even though he only picked up boxing a mere 2 weeks earlier. Ryu's quickness and nimble footwork are unmatched, leaving even veteran fighters unable to keep up with him. He amazes the neighborhood trainer to such an extent that he reaches out to a globally renowned coach named K, famous for preparing 5 of the best boxers on the planet, and now wandering in search of one final protege. He studies the boy carefully and begins assessing every subtle motion he makes. It becomes obvious that his heaven-sent ability and raw skill outshine anyone K has ever guided before. His techniques flow effortlessly, and he moves with a distinctive flair that's entirely his own. In short, Ryu possesses all the qualities required to rise as the next champion. However, his obsession with showing off and his poor discipline in training prevent him from overcoming an opponent who is older and physically stronger. That rival ultimately claims victory, and at that moment Kei hears a disturbance outside and spots several bullies through the window, assaulting a withdrawn, solitary boy who makes no effort to defend himself. He absorbs blow after blow, and Kei suddenly notices something that deeply unsettles him. He can hardly trust what he is seeing. The boy is clearly tracking every incoming strike, yet he deliberately chooses not to evade them. Kei rushes downstairs while the local trainer handles the thugs. Then Kei poses a single question. Why did he refuse to avoid those punches? The boy casually answers that he simply didn't feel like it, and strolls off as though nothing occurred. That response pushes Kei to put him to the test. He suddenly lunges forward, unleashing his quickest and most precise punch. The boy clearly anticipates the strike and sidesteps it effortlessly. He is stunned by how smoothly the youngster evaded his attack. Even in his older years, no one had ever avoided that punch. The fact that this kid slipped it so easily proves that he possesses talent of a divine caliber. Kei knows he cannot ignore such boundless promise, so he proposes to train him in boxing. Yet the melancholic boy shows zero enthusiasm, even questions whether striking others could possibly be enjoyable. Kei realizes the boy lacks the natural drive to dominate others. Sharp difference from the white-haired, gifted troublemaker he encountered at the gym. Kei insists that landing punches can indeed be thrilling. Delivering a blow to another person can create a powerful sense of purpose, and many people chase that exhilarating peak. To demonstrate, Kei introduces him to his very first basic boxing drill, a straightforward 1-2 combination. He grants him 30 days to decide whether to accept the offer. The gloomy teen brushes it off and walks away. The neighborhood coach is utterly puzzled about what exactly Kei perceived in that boy. He explains that he has always trusted his instincts. He felt the same certainty about the 5 champions he once mentored, and about Ryu as well. This withdrawn kid is something entirely different. A single glance at him sent chills racing down Kei's spine in pure unease. Even now, Kei is still shaken by the meeting. That expression in his eyes, he appeared utterly bored while being pummeled by bullies. So Kei secretly tested him with a full-force punch from behind. Yet the boy had already perceived the incoming fist and slipped past it smoothly, not by luck or wild instinct. His movement was exact and fluid, as though he had foreseen it. For his lifetime, Kei has encountered countless prodigies, but none comparable to this child. Some might assume he's merely quick to react. However, the manner in which he avoided Kei's strike suggests that time itself seems slower from his perspective. In essence, he feels less like a human and more like a creature beyond that. The next morning at school, Kei is being relentlessly beaten by a group of bullies, just an ordinary kind-hearted nerd. He's currently treated like Ryu's human seat, while the white-haired delinquent is known for both gym training and intimidation. Ryu soaks in admiration from his cronies, who genuinely believe he's destined for world champion status. In his mind, the world is divided between weaklings like the mysterious boy and his geeky friend, and the powerful figures such as Ryu, who resembles a fiercer version of a hot-headed hero. The gang casually roughs up our protagonist as part of their routine. True target, however, remains Jay, who is constantly tormented. At lunch, they even dump revolting candy into his meal, forcing him to swallow it, as the scrawny nerd lacks the strength to resist. Naturally, he has no choice but to comply with the humiliating demand. Jay feels utterly miserable afterward. While others enjoy their games, Jay sits with the mysterious introvert since both are labeled as outcasts. Jay is confused because Yu possesses remarkable athletic ability yet refuses to participate out of boredom, and he tries to uncover what truly motivates him. Jay's knowledge, Yu has never aspired to anything, drifting through life in total indifference. Yu turns the question back on Jay, who admits he hopes to follow his father's path. As they continue chatting playfully, Yu cannot tolerate seeing the nerd enjoying himself. He angrily kicks the ball straight at Jay. To everyone's disbelief, Yu calmly catches it. Ryu, the resident menace, reacts aggressively and strikes anyone bold enough to challenge him. He attempts to instill terror in Yu's eyes. Yu responds with a blank, unimpressed stare. Meanwhile, Jay has secretly been training in boxing. inspired by his father, whom he deeply respects for his bravery. In his heart, Jay feels he has let his friend down by avoiding confrontation with Ryu. After all, that discount Bakugo is the one he fears most, and that fear constantly makes him feel worthless. Jay, the miserable teen hiding alone in his room, doubts whether he stands any chance against the unstoppable force that threatens him. To Jay, his rival's power is undeniably on another level. He has witnessed the white-haired delinquent overpower fighters far heavier than himself. The matches look like entertainment to him, as though he's merely playing around. Four Eyes believes there is absolutely no one capable of defeating him. Hoping to find some guidance, Jay turns to his father, once a respected boxer in his era. He asks how someone smaller can overcome a superior opponent. His father explains that true victory once depended on the fighter's heart, the very trait that separated amateurs from real professionals. Still, he admits that even he once felt paralyzed with fear before stronger rivals. At times, despite his skill, he froze and accepted defeat because surrender felt easier than enduring more punishment. He reminds Jay that once a boxer stays down, it is truly over, and he stresses that the greatest quality is the will to rise again, no matter how hard you fall. However, he adds that outside the ring, avoiding danger is often the wiser choice. He notes that bravery deserves respect from anyone, boxer or not. Comforted by those words, the nerdy boy finally drifts off to sleep. The focus then shifts to Yu, climbing the stairs when he encounters Bitchface once more. Ryu is determined to get revenge, and even tracks him down at home, mocking him cruelly under the guise of teaching him respect. Pushes him toward a confrontation. Yu responds with his usual indifference, only to have his head violently struck. Ryu decides to make his life miserable by demanding money from him. When Ryu finally leaves on schedule, his daily routine remains unchanged. His way back, Ryu burns with anger, haunted by the boy's empty stare. He runs into members of another gang, who have long wanted to challenge him. To release his frustration, Bitchface launches a fierce strike, dropping one instantly, and enjoying dismantling them piece by piece. The pained faces fuel his twisted satisfaction. That night ends with Yu alone, sitting with his cat, his lifeless gaze making him appear almost spectral. The following day marks the showdown Jay has been preparing for, determined to face his tormentors. Even during class, he steels himself to suppress his fear. Strangely, no one lays a hand on him. Jay feels uneasy because this silence is unusual. Then he notices Yu is absent, and suspects there must be a reason for their restraint. Suspicion proves correct. Yu is being beaten inside a warehouse for failing to deliver Ryu's payment. The gang members rehearse their strikes on him, as if he were a punching bag. Ryu supervises, instructing them while enjoying the spectacle. Suddenly Jay bursts in, yelling for them to stop. A heavy silence fills the room. Fear quickly replaces it as Jay's heart pounds, realizing his words cannot be undone. Terror threatens to erase the courage he built before entering. His body trembles, yet retreat is no longer an option and he must fight. He raises his fists. Ryu is genuinely astonished by this, but Jay's shaking gradually stops. Remembering his father's lessons, he positions himself perfectly and snaps out a sharp jab, then twists his hips to fire a solid cross. Even Jay is startled by how cleanly the combo lands. It only enrages his opponent further. Feeling his blows connect gives Jay newfound bravery. Now it is his opponent who flickers with irritation. Yet Ryu steps forward to put an end to it. He intends to engrave this humiliation into Jay's memory. Even his crew thinks it is cruel that the nerd must face the final boss after one small win. Ryu taunts him to attack, while Jay believes his true fight has begun and rushes in with misplaced confidence. Jay throws a straight punch that is effortlessly avoided. Ryu moves like he has entered some untouchable state, evading everything. Jay focuses desperately on landing just one decisive hit. Exhaustion quickly catches up to him, so much that Ryu begins mocking him openly, even smacks him harshly across the face. The brutal strike nearly crushes his spirit as dread seeps in. Ryu continues provoking him to attack again. Another heavy blow sends Jay reeling in a haze. He realizes he is battling a true monster and struggles for breath, regretting his challenge. Ryu's followers add fuel with relentless trash talk. Ryu approaches and asks if he has already surrendered, but Jay rises again like a determined underdog. He stands ready despite knowing he is outmatched. His plan now is to exhaust his rival. Unfortunately, Ryu prefers to play with him, casually shifts to a one-handed stance. Even so, his strikes slice through Jay's guard with ease. A torrent of punishing punches rains down on him. Jay stubbornly refuses to collapse. Crushing hit lands in his stomach, while Ryu savors the violence like a thrill. Jay begins to grasp the harsh reality of street fights. Still, he refuses to quit and absorbs the punishment in hopes of victory. Ryu appears fully aware of this tactic. He continues striking swiftly across Jay's body. Jay withstands blows from every direction. Even the onlookers admit he is getting thoroughly beaten. Yet Jay endures, waiting for a single perfect opening. Suddenly, Ryu winds up for a massive punch. Jay seizes the brief chance to counter with an uppercut, but Ryu slips it with ease instead of falling. He answers with a crushing slam straight to Jay's face. Jay's father never achieved fame or glory in the ring, and was not remembered as heroic. Yet that quiet resilience is what Jay admired most. Now the boy who endured everything lies sprawled on the ground, his senses scrambled by the beating. Ryu ridicules his transparent strategy, having seen through it from the start. Still, the fight refuses to end, as the battered nerd struggles on. Jay absorbs repeated slaps to his face. Ryu drags him through every torment he can devise. Lying on the floor, Jay recalls his father's advice and gathers every shred of strength left to push himself back up. Ryu acknowledges his determination and almost feels inclined to stop tormenting him. Yet it still isn't finished for the boy clinging to a true fighter's spirit. Jay struggles to his feet once more, hungry for triumph. Ryu watches him with sharp attention. Meanwhile, Bitchface is furious beyond measure. He answers with a devastating blow straight to Jay's face. Ryu throws punches so vicious that even his own crew fears he might kill him. Jay's face becomes a mess of swelling, blood, and bruises beyond recognition. Ryu takes the boy's stubbornness as a personal insult. He hurls insults, branding him a pathetic loser. Ryu's disbelief. Jay never once calculated his odds of winning. Instead, he calls Ryu foolish for misjudging him. Through this bold defiance, Jay evolves into someone stronger, no longer caring about petty reputations. Fiery conviction, he declares his dream of becoming a boxer. Those words echo deeply within you. They only enrage Ryu further, driving him to rain down even more punches. Then Yu's sharp question cuts through the chaos and silences everyone. He repeats the same inquiry he once posed to Coach K about finding pleasure in hurting others. The focus shifts to Coach K, who explains he trusted his instincts the moment he saw the gloomy boy. Fighting champions had always been about sensing that innate spark, but this particular boy carried something entirely unique. The scene returns to Yu confronting Ryu. His lackeys puff up their chests and posture aggressively. Yu calmly mirrors Coach K's movements and fires a precise 1-2 that rattles the punk. He recalls trembling with excitement when he first met the boy. The impact of those punches leaves the room in stunned silence. Each thug steps forward only to be knocked aside. Yu watches in disbelief, as if detached from his own body. Kay mentions how the boy's eyes seemed to invite the incoming strikes, as though nothing in the world could truly capture his interest. That strange composure compelled Kay to test him personally. He unleashed a crushing punch meant to flatten him. The outcome was undeniable, as the boy slipped past it with grace. Such finesse usually comes only after years of training. It was neither luck nor reflex, but something beyond ordinary. Even the most celebrated coach admits he has never encountered talent like this. Now the decisive moment arrives. Ryu feels a strange anxiety creeping in. His cold, piercing stare unsettles him deeply. Ryu lunges forward only to feel the side of his face explode in pain. He cries out as he tastes his own punishment. Yu simply gazes at him with indifference. The once feared bully now trembles like prey facing a predator. In Kay's words, that boy is no ordinary human. He is a monster in the purest sense, forged differently. We glimpse Ryu's past when he was easily spotting flaws in others' fights. He even sported an absurd haircut back then, yet it never stopped him from dominating opponents. He began to see himself as untouchable, since no one could defeat him. The thrill of overwhelming others fueled his hunger for more. Fear and suffering reshaped his entire personality. He beat so many challengers that his name spread nationwide. He relished facing opponents several times his size. Crushing them and proving his superiority brought him endless satisfaction. A streak of victories inflated his ego beyond measure. But now fate flips the script as he is crushed by someone far deadlier. His confidence shatters under this new reality. Still, he convinces himself it was a mere accident. Determined to reclaim dominance, he contemplates the best way to retaliate. He channels every ounce of power into a single charge. Anticipating Yu's dodge, he counters swiftly and aims for his head at close range. Yu defies the impossible and evades again. In that instant, Ryu realizes he has made a fatal mistake. Yu rises and hammers him with a crushing jab followed by relentless strikes. Ryu's supposed gift pales against an opponent beyond his awareness. The predator reveals himself, proving even hunters can become prey. Ryu later awakens in a hospital bed, screaming from a nightmare. Moments later, he feels as though every bone in his body is broken. He confronts unfamiliar emotions of defeat and dread. Like a child after losing, he weeps in humiliation. Meanwhile, Coach K fixates entirely on recruiting this extraordinary boy. His obsession grows so intense he would go to extreme lengths. While everyone expects Ryu at the gym, Yu arrives instead, having defeated him decisively. Kei beams with excitement at his decision to train. Yu agrees but sets one condition. He asks for money to cover hospital expenses. Kei laughs upon learning Ryu was hardly a challenge, amazed at how easily Yu handled him. Jokingly claims he would buy the entire hospital if it meant securing Yu. They head there together, and Kei secretly delights in Ryu's downfall. Yu, however, worries about Jay's condition, remembering the passion that burned within him. After settling the bills, Yu brings Kei to his apartment. The empty space reflects a life devoid of connections. Kei finally asks for his full name. Question stirs painful memories of his mother's death. He recalls little besides his family name and briefly introduces himself. Kei promises to lead him into an entirely new world. Their destinies now intersect. Much the same way, the arrogant are cast aside like discarded waste. Ryu cannot even meet Jay's gaze. His face reflects crushing defeat, while Jay stands upright, filled with renewed hope. The time arrives, and Yu prepares with only a small bag. Alongside his loyal cat, Coach K decides it is time for a transformation. He styles his hair, giving him a sharp new look. They make their way to the airport. Coach K is greeted there by his trusted assistant. Carmen, who manages the gym's operations, steps forward to meet them. She ushers them into the waiting car. Yu has not even fought professionally yet, and already lives in a stunning home provided by Coach K. Without wasting time, they head straight to training at Lion's Boxing Club, a gym famous for producing legendary fighters. The facility prides itself on modern, science-based programs, and they guide him around as he takes it all in. The other boxers stare in disbelief because the boy appears small and frail to them. Carmen explains that very few athletes are personally trained by K and tells him he should feel honored. Yet Yu remains indifferent and unimpressed. Carmen grows slightly irritated by his lack of enthusiasm. Yu is then introduced to Arnold. However, his gaze lingers on the portraits of past champions. Among them, Irentide stands out as Kei's greatest masterpiece. He wants him to feel the energy of a live match firsthand. He instructs Carmen to secure seats for an upcoming title fight, so Yu can witness true monsters in action. Inside the roaring arena, the ring awaits two warriors. The reigning champion dominates, landing blow after blow. Every punch sends shockwaves through his challenger, till a decisive knockout ends it all. Eren claims victory and retains his heavyweight crown. Kei tells Yu to listen to the crowd's cheers, because one day they will roar for him as well. With Kei's guidance, the quiet loner will rise to the summit and fulfill his coach's dream. The boy recalls the brilliant presence that changed his life. He wakes in his spacious, yet still lonely new room. Back at Lion's Boxing Club, fiery orange-haired fighter demands to train directly under Kei. He dismisses his bold claim, saying he will never reach Yu's level and joking that if he does, he will make him a champion. Rumors quickly spread about Josh facing Yu. Josh trains relentlessly and has already won youth titles, proving himself among professionals. Still, Kei brushes him off as ordinary, saying fighters like him are everywhere. Kei dislikes those whose ceilings are obvious, and Josh takes it as a challenge to prove him wrong. Inside the ring, Josh treats it like the most important fight of his life. But when he finally faces Yu, he struggles even to secure his raps. His frustration grows as he realizes he is up against a complete novice. Spectators buzz with anticipation. Yu appears skinny and inexperienced, as if he has never trained before. Some doubt him while others trust Kei's eye for talent. After preparations, Kei asks if Yu feels nervous. The introvert admits he finds it dull. Kei offers one key lesson before leaving the ring: never allow yourself to be hit. That advice, he steps away, leaving the two fighters alone. Kei eagerly waits to witness his prodigy's ability. The bell rings and Josh charges aggressively. Yet his attacks seem meaningless. Yu evades them effortlessly, as if predicting each strike. No matter how sharp Josh's punches are, none touch him. Watching this only intensifies Kei's desire to unleash him on greater challenges. Carmen realizes Kei selected him for speed rather than brute force. Yu barely reacts while dodging, seeing the punches as painfully slow until Josh tires. Soon Josh begins losing stamina. He cannot comprehend failing to land a single hit. Kei's earlier criticism echoes painfully in his mind. He understands now it was never mere provocation. Facing Yu feels like hitting an unbreakable barrier. Refusing to quit, Josh mixes feints with strikes to confuse him. Yu glides past every attempt while Josh grows desperate. A memory reveals Josh once believed himself the hardest worker in the gym. He spent countless hours training daily for years, idolizing champions and dreaming of becoming one. Now frustration replaces ambition. He believes that even disciplined fighters have limits. Josh realizes his ceiling when facing someone with extraordinary talent, though Kei still respects the effort it took to reach this stage. First round ends, and the referee separates them. Josh looks utterly drained. Kay calmly advises Yu, target the chin for a clean knockout. Yu has mastered only striking and evasion so far. Kay believes geniuses should develop their own style, rather than copy textbook techniques. He even claims Yu embodies the spirit of boxing itself. Round 2 begins, and the outlook is bleak for Josh. Josh admits Yu's reflexes are exceptional, yet he assumes endurance will be Yu's weakness, since that requires conditioning. He plans to pressure him steadily, with measured attacks. Confident in this approach, as soon as the bell sounds, Josh is flattened by a single devastating punch. He loses consciousness instantly. He awakens. The arena is nearly empty. He realizes he was completely knocked out. Yu surprisingly offers him another chance. Josh declines, knowing the gap between them is immense. Yet Yu senses a determination in him similar to Jay's. As he departs, Josh wonders if he could have beaten the other chosen prodigy. Yu pauses to consider. Instead of Ryu's arrogance, he recalls Jay's relentless spirit. That is why Yu deems Jay stronger. Josh is left alone with his thoughts. 2 years pass after that bout. A muscular blonde, resembling another worldly warrior, seeks information about Kay's fighters. Details about Yu remain scarce, except that he focuses heavily on endurance. He runs until his body gives out, and returns home to recover. The once scrawny youth has transformed into a sculpted powerhouse. At the gym, his next opponent is John Taker, a lightweight with 9 wins and 7 losses. Known for crushing rookies and stealing their spotlight, this ruthless fighter loves cornering opponents, and Carmen worries Yu's limited training could be risky. Coach K contemplates the matchup thoughtfully. Meanwhile, John Taker relentlessly pounds the heavy bag in preparation. John is notorious for setting up vicious hooks before trapping opponents in a brutal headlock finisher known throughout boxing circles. His manager introduces him to reporter Peter Kent for an interview. The cartoonish-looking fighter seems stunned that the press actually wants his words. He understands they are fishing for a dramatic headline. The media hopes he will demolish Kay's hidden prodigy. Blonde interviewer appears knowledgeable and eager to stir controversy. John claims that so-called prodigies are overrated and that crushing their confidence brings him satisfaction. He grows disturbingly excited, describing how he humbles gifted fighters who think too highly of themselves. To him, victory means knocking opponents out by any means necessary. He mocks the reporter as weak, insisting he despises rule followers. John prides himself on bending rules to catch inexperienced fighters off guard. He rambles about his rebellious philosophy, referencing champion Fabrizio Santorino. The bald fighter openly admires the Santorino brothers as elite warriors. He sends a warning to Kay, vowing to crush his prized talent. Afterward, he privately wonders if he can truly defeat Yu, a sharp contrast to his bravado. Despite all his trash talk, his handler has to remind him to stay confident. Meanwhile, Yu attract heavy media coverage. Analysts describe Yu as an outboxer who relies on agile footwork and point scoring. Carmen firmly manages the press and shuts the door on further questions. John grows irritated by the commotion surrounding Yu, fuels his desire to crush the newcomer even harder. He prepares to step fully into the spotlight. Critics continue to ridicule him from every angle. Commentators eagerly hype the lightweight showdown. Fans are curious about Kay's final protege and his rumored potential. John smiles at the thought of disappointing Kay by breaking his prized fighter. The 59 contender enters with his team as Coach K assists him into the ring. He carries himself with undeniable swagger under the bright lights. Porter Peter remains intrigued since you have focused mostly on endurance training. John studies that detail, planning to pressure you at close range. Kay has already laid out the strategy, and you intend to follow it precisely. The commentators raise expectations for a spectacular performance. Even John notices your calm, icy composure and vows to punish you once it begins. All attention locks onto the two men. The match officially starts. John feigns sportsmanship with a tap before attempting a sneaky strike. He freezes when he sees your unflinching stare. It feels as though he stands before a loaded weapon ready to fire. His confidence wavers and then chaos erupts. You snap a sharp punch across his cheek, stunning the arena. The moment recalls Kay's confident pre-fight remarks. Kay had clearly planned to shock the audience with your performance. John's eyes widen in disbelief. You relentlessly pepper him with calculated punches that slice along the edges. Kay hopes the spectacle teaches the world a lesson. John struggles to regain focus. His face is drenched in blood. The damage is so alarming that a ringside doctor steps in. The veteran physician is baffled by what he observes. He notes the cuts are unnaturally precise, rather than blunt trauma. The doctor marvels at how your gloves produced such surgical damage. Fear begins to overtake John completely. Physician declares there is no critical injury, allowing the bout to continue. Though shaken, John refuses to withdraw. The referee watches closely, wary of his condition. John cannot comprehend what makes this rookie so monstrous, since he believes boxing is purely technique. He senses no restraint in you, only the presence of a merciless force. Desperate, he launches forward, yet he cannot close the distance without being struck again. He struggles to understand how you anticipate every move. Act against the ropes, he questions reality as you deliver another brutal uppercut. Blood splatters as the crowd watches in shock. The outcome now seems obvious to everyone. Even his own coach admits you are toying with him. John cannot block without feeling crushing force behind each blow. The punishment continues to pile up. A fear of death creeps into his thoughts. Raw violence electrifies the spectators. Horror gradually transforms into exhilaration. They celebrate the terrifying talent K has cultivated. The once silent crowd erupts in thunderous applause. John becomes convinced you could end someone without emotion. Attempts a dirty move aimed at injuring your foot. You effortlessly counter, exposing every cheap trick. The audience jeers at his failed tactics. Unleash sharp jabs once more, though the atmosphere shifts. John's coach hopes drawing you close will allow the headlock hook to succeed. Instead, he stands crushed under pressure, humiliated and bloody. The crowd's noise overwhelms him, freezing his body. Years earlier, John was an overlooked amateur constantly dismissed. His coach once praised his hook as his greatest weapon. He was later matched against Olympic champion Isis Dresner. Dresner had recently entered professional boxing. John expected to lose badly in that debut. Though his coach pitied him, John's drive pushed him forward, appreciated the rare opportunity. As predicted, he was battered severely. Dresner overwhelmed him at close range with relentless blows. John swung wildly and was countered to the body. Yet amid the beating, he seized a critical opening. Growing up in harsh alleys had hardened his worldview. Boxing gave him purpose and passion. In desperation, he resorted to a dirty hook against Dresner. That single strike knocked the champion out. No one expected such an upset. Dresner rose, but the momentum had shifted. That foul victory reshaped John's identity. He soon capitalized on the moment, earning recognition and further bouts despite his questionable style. Back in the present, the crowd mocks him relentlessly. His coach watches sadly, knowing that beneath the bravado John is a troubled fighter who never truly wanted to become this kind of man. Among everyone, only Egghead's coach truly trusts him because he has witnessed the person he really is beneath the surface. Even though the entire crowd keeps trashing and mocking him, the coach sees the spark in John and steps up as the steady voice pushing him to keep fighting. Fueled by that encouragement, John charges forward and unleashes a fierce swing. He assumes someone like you would never understand the fear of being excluded. John resorts to the same dirty maneuver, and this time lands a crushing smash. The spectators are left completely speechless, everyone except Coach K, because what truly met were their fists colliding. John poured all his strength into that blow and ended up breaking his own fingers. You seized that moment to deliver a finishing slam, exactly the outcome K had been anticipating. After the brutal exchange, John collapses unconscious on the canvas. The audience keeps jeering at him, even after he has already lost. John's coach pleads for him to rise again, burdened by guilt for failing to properly lead his student. Sadly, he lacked the strength to keep motivating John any longer. The sight of that pitiful expression pushes John to remain standing. He refuses to quit, determined to keep battling the beast before him. John fights with victory in mind, dreaming of becoming a boxer like the hero he admired. Yet his determination falters when he becomes aware of his own errors. In the end, the bout finishes with you claiming the win. The outcome brands you as a merciless devil, making a striking entrance into professional boxing. The arena erupts with cheers louder than ever before. Reporter Peter is astonished that John's dirty headlock was countered and crushed by a precise hook. Even so, John is the one who suffers the heavier damage instead of you. It becomes obvious that Yu's abilities push human growth to its limits, and Coach K has finally discovered the monster he sought. 6. A fighter who plays with his prey. Peter believes the top fighters must be watching this with intense interest. Josh was also among those witnessing the intense showdown. Instead of feeling thrilled, he quietly accepted reality. He understands that becoming world champion is beyond his reach. Choosing a different path, he turns to bartending, his spirit crushed entirely by Yu's overwhelming presence. Back at the boxing club, Steele trains alongside Jay, who is still in awe after Yu's extraordinary triumph. He has always believed firmly in Yu's strength. The second Egghead tells Jay to relax, since he will never reach Yu's level. Even so, Jay is determined to impress him someday, and pushes his training pace even harder. The unwavering confidence fuels both of them to train relentlessly, and while Jay feels inspired, others, however, are secretly scheming about taking Yu down. Bakugo may act refined now, yet he still burns with anger whenever he sees Yu, and those bored eyes are enough to stir his jealousy. Focus shifts to Jean, the reigning lightweight world champion, engaged in discussion. Despite his own strength, Jean cannot help but admire Yu's performance. Then there is an overweight glutton nicknamed Gorlock, the Destroyer, who regards our guy as nothing particularly special. This bulky man claims he will be Rookie of the Year in lightweight, seemingly forgetting what lightweight even means. A reporter predicts that fans will be especially hyped for the lightweight matches because of Yu. After all, K has introduced a monster with massive star power and lethal skill. Interestingly, one fighter has even surpassed Yu in fame. Qasim, grandson of the Jihad group's head, has shaken the boxing world. It wasn't his wealth that stunned people, but his deadly talent in the ring. The stage is ready for Yu versus Qasim, a fight bound to keep everyone on edge. The victor of that clash earns a shot at Jean, the decade-long lightweight champion. Qasim storms in by kicking the door wide open. Resembling a massive grizzly prepared for its next prey, he encounters his furious director, who is angry he disappeared only to return overweight. Qasim ignores the insults, feeling only the burning desire to fight. He even offers $10,000 to anyone willing to spar with him. His coach recalls the first time he walked into the gym, and it was unbelievable. From the start, he was serious about immediately chasing the world title. Truthfully, he came off as unbearably arrogant in the beginning. Coach believed a harsh lesson in real boxing would scare him away in tears. Instead, everything backfired as Qasim overwhelmed and devoured his opponent. The newcomer crushed every fighter in the gym with raw talent. Yes, that same ugly brute who looks like he swallowed a few boxers whole. The director is shocked that he still fights with the same approach. Qasim toys with his opponents as if they are mere children. Although he belongs to their gym, the director despises his style. Qasim slips under a punch and fires a brutal uppercut like a video game character. Throws wild custom moves, leaving himself wide open defensively. The coach yells at him for crossing the line with disgraceful tactics. Qasim shamelessly suggests purchasing the entire gym to rewrite the rules himself. Despite his hatred, the director cannot deny that physics guidance benefits him, as his talent surpasses most others. After defeating 20 men, Qasim proves his words were not empty boasts. He truly has the skill to capture the championship belt. Following 2 intense weeks of practice, Qasim claims to have beaten 1,000 opponents. He now flaunts a chiseled physique like a gigachad, transforming from obese to ripped with steel abs and endless stamina in just 2 weeks. Qasim lives like a wild creature who eats and sleeps at will, challenging the very limits of human capability. His coach struggles to imagine anyone defeating him, and with bodies piling up in the gym, Qasim is shaped into the ultimate threat to the lightweight king. James is a struggling fighter who cannot even provide a decent meal for his son. As a poor father, he feeds his child simple potato soup, yet the boy never voices a complaint. Burdened by endless expenses and harsh inflation, he hopes a win bonus from his next bout will finally afford them a proper feast. The day before his match, Qasim is nowhere to be seen. That is because he forcefully enters Yu's gym, demanding that Yu come out and face him. None of the gym members recognize Qasim. Even Coach K is startled by the sudden arrival of the red-haired stranger. K bizarrely grabs his legs to examine his physique. K concludes he is a rare mix of power and madness. He may differ from Aaron, but his punches carry serious force. Coach K eagerly anticipates Yu crushing this spectacle of a fighter. The redhead claims he came to see Yu before their unavoidable showdown. He informs him that you are busy with endurance drills and tells him to go find Yu himself. The focus shifts to Yu, immersed in his training session, when Qasim suddenly lunges at him without warning. Yu strikes back swiftly, yet Qasim impressively blocks the blow. The goofy-looking challenger declares he will crush Yu and rule the lightweight division. Yu's complete indifference only irritates him further. Before departing, Tomato Hair vows that you will never defeat him inside the ring. After making that bold claim, he dashes away like a fool, leaving even Yu confused about what just happened. In competition, Qasim becomes a savage force, tricking his opponent with a feigned uppercut, then pounding him with crushing blows that rattle his entire body, till the man collapses down onto his knees. Coach K watches the bout closely alongside his team. He considers Qasim both entertaining to watch and highly unconventional. There's a clear reason most boxers avoid fighting like Qasim, since his style relies on clumsy and inefficient movements. Still, his freakish physical gifts let him pull off those reckless tactics and get away with it. His raw athleticism is what keeps him dominating. James, standing across from Qasim, makes the worst decision of his life by forcing himself back to his feet. The unhinged fighter is far from finished with him. A sense of dread creeps over James. Even so, he readies a counterattack, hoping it will shatter Qasim's advancing blow. Refined technique clashes with wild unpredictability. and in the next instant, Kasim rockets forward like a missile. He slips past what was likely James's only opportunity to win. A streak of red flashes across his vision. James drops down onto his knees, then collapses flat against the canvas. Believing it is finished, Kasim basks in the crowd's applause. Yet James refuses to quit. There is still determination burning inside him. He remembers the promise he made to his child. With fading strength, he urges Kasim to respect the honor of boxing. Sadly, those words mark his final stand. Feral opponent remains unmoved by the defeated man's plea. Now it is our boy's turn, needing only a single step forward to secure triumph. Kasim likewise had crushed his rivals and felt untouchable, convinced no one could break him. Both fighters have torn through their divisions and are inching closer to the world title. Yu favors crisp, calculated, almost machine-like precision. In contrast, Kasim thrives on overpowering foes with bizarre and unconventional attacks. Kasim carries himself like an overconfident child, proclaiming he will soon rule everything. He even takes his trash talk public and directly calls you out, claiming he will flatten you like the rest. His wins are meant to spark a new age of offbeat boxing. The reporter notes with admiration that Kasim was bold enough to make the first move. Upon hearing this, Kay bursts into laughter, delighted that he will be the one to crush Kasim's spirit. The arena echoes with cheers as fans embrace Kasim's unusual approach. His presence alone has split the boxing community in two. Some supporters celebrate his unpredictable flair. Others ridicule him for clownish antics instead of disciplined technique. Media coverage sends his fame skyrocketing with endless speculation about his future. Yet he ignores all opinions and follows his own path. His growing fan base steadily drowns out his critics while his director hypes him up as a born king. Meanwhile, Yu calmly sharpens his fundamentals with clean combinations. Kay approaches to inform him about Kasim's open challenge. Kay stresses that this opponent is nothing like the pushover Yu has dismantled recently. Last, the highly anticipated day arrives, a showdown between two rising underdogs. Yu and Kasim are set to determine who earns a shot at champion Jean, who watches from ringside. The director believes Kasim's breakthrough moment is just within reach. Being the madman he is, he cares little for a single belt and dreams of conquering every weight class. His bold ambition draws a cold reaction from Jean. Across the ring stands Yu, armed with Kay's guidance. As they lock eyes, Kasim radiates savagery while Yu exudes calculated brilliance. The answer to who will prevail hangs in the air. The bell rings and Kasim relishes the canvas beneath his feet while sizing up his target. Yu studies every twitch as Kasim bizarrely hides his fists behind his back, baiting Yu to attack and mocking predictable straight punches. Then in a blink, a devastating strike smashes into Kasim's left side, snapping his head violently. Kay never believed Kasim would truly threaten you, and has already allowed you to unleash everything in this bout. The opening hit is only the start. Yu erases Kasim's grin with another blow that sends his red hair flying. Kay remarks that only fighters like you could evade such attacks, though someone like Kasim might manage it too. Kasim's face absorbs brutal punishment, and Kay observes that despite his muscular build, he is little more than a heavy bag for Yu's strikes. Yu coldly proves who the true monster inside the ropes is. Each punch ignites the crowd, who have long waited to see Kasim forced onto the defensive. Even his own coach admits Yu had been holding back in earlier bouts to obliterate challengers like Kasim later. Confidence drains from him as he gasps for air. He begins questioning every decision that led him into the ring with Yu. The overwhelming cheers for his downfall echo as he endures torment for the audience's amusement. Fear flips the hunter into prey, and he retreats shakily into the corner like a frightened child. Kay laughs at his dazed state, while Kasim's director screams at him to lower his guard and fight. Advising him is pointless, like coaching someone who never truly trained. Even with his arms raised, his face continues to be battered mercilessly. At that moment, the director grasps a harsh truth. He had never truly taught Kasim proper boxing, indulging his personal flair instead. Desperation overtakes Kasim as he wildly swings to create chaos. Yu answers by rocking him yet again. His coach grows furious, realizing he neglected basic fundamentals while blinded by Kasim's rapid rise, and now considers surrendering. Still, the thought of Kasim giving everything he has compels the coach to urge him to survive just one round. That hope fades quickly as the terrified fighter looks ready to bolt from the ring. Even the referee stands stunned, never having witnessed such behavior. The coach confronts him face to face and scolds him harshly. Kasim explodes, admitting he may be insane but not enough to challenge a monster like you, effectively ending his career before it began. Coach fumes, Angry that Kasim treated this prestigious sport like a joke, he slaps him hard across the face, declaring that even if you are the strongest alive, that fact changes nothing. It is foolish to chase only easy opponents, and the coach earns respect for urging this naive fighter to embrace a true boxer's spirit. Kasim recalls his own bold claims, now haunting him under thousands of staring eyes. He once believed he could win the title simply by enjoying himself. James's earlier words echo in his mind, clinging painfully to his conscience. Humiliated and shattered, Kasim breaks down and flees in tears. His coach regrets ever allowing this prodigy-turned failure into the ring. The battle concludes with you claiming an effortless victory. The spectacle is so absurd that Kay laughs uncontrollably. After that humiliating exit, Kasim never returns to professional boxing. As for the long-awaited tender scene between James and his son, he manages to bring home a joyful meal of KFC for the boy. Yu then confronts his ultimate nightmare, the Cat King. The Cat King spars with him like Goku facing Vegeta, trading blows and dodging swiftly. Coach K cackles wildly as usual, while you take a sharp slap to the face and abruptly awaken from the dream as the tiny feline king stirs you. Following the easy win over Kasim, K grants you a well-deserved break since you have not rested in ages. Though unnecessary, he insists you recharge after non-stop victories. To pass the time, you turn on the television, but in this restless mood, nothing seems entertaining. Thinking back to Jay's earlier advice, Yu decides it might be time to enter his gaming phase. So he follows his instincts, heading over to the arcade, where he utterly crushes a seasoned player at air hockey. The stunned opponent believes he has discovered a prodigy, destined to revolutionize the game. Ironically, you remain bored and indifferent throughout. The man offers him a life-changing opportunity, claiming he could become an air hockey world champion. But he declines the proposal since he has no financial pressures this time, and refuses to be swayed like before. Who leaves Indiana Jackson in tears. Then he moves on to another game to conquer, practically unbeatable thanks to his lightning-fast reflexes. Even in competitive fighting games, Yu overwhelms everyone he faces. He ends up spending the entire night glued to the arcade machines, yet none of the games manage to excite him. It is almost as if winning constantly has become a curse. Eventually, Yu settles down on a bench in the park, watching a family happily spending time together. Turns his head and notices a young boy staring at him like he has seen a celebrity. The child says he has watched the underdog boxer's matches. Eagerly, he asks for an autograph, seeing it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Unfortunately, you barely even know how to sign your name, so you scribble it down in the plainest way possible. Boy gushes about Yu's incredible strength in the ring. Meanwhile, his supposed hero radiates clear annoyance toward kids. Child firmly believes you will become world champion and the strongest alive. He declares that he wants to follow in your footsteps to grow stronger. Strangely, Yu does not admire strength at all, believing it pointless in a world where violence can end anyone instantly. He thinks even the mightiest fighters will fall if they chase reckless challenges. Without realizing it, he plants heavy thoughts into the boy's mind, even bluntly mentions that everyone's parents eventually die. In the end, Yu confesses he sees no real glory in becoming powerful. He is puzzled when he notices the boy's shaken reaction. Child runs away in tears. When Yu returns home, the shadow of his broken past seems to trail behind him. It feels as though memories of his suffering still cling to his steps. He reunites with Cat King, affectionately known as the best boxer, quietly wishing that his small companion lives long despite life's fragility. He falls asleep beside his loyal friend, as he always does. Gene completes another meditation session in preparation for his ultimate match. Sitting across from his partner at dinner, Gene refuses to eat, upsetting her. Something weighs heavily on his mind. That looming presence is none other than Yu. Focus then shifts to Carmen, who has just wrapped up her own tasks, and notices Yu training relentlessly. While others relax, he continues pushing himself. Carmen believes he should rest occasionally, yet his discipline never wavers. She jokes that such dedication is typical for a boxer, though he might secretly be mechanical. Yu's expression has barely changed in 2 years, and he keeps emotional distance from everyone. He focuses solely on executing his coach's instruction. Carmen wonders whether boxing is truly his passion, or if he cares about anything besides his cat. Gene is described as a colossal obstacle awaiting him. He senses similarities between them, yet Yu remains detached. He would not even celebrate winning the championship or take pride in it. The scene returns to Gene, who meditates more intensely than ever. Even his coach can tell that his thoughts are consumed by his coming challenger. Gene states that he feels prepared for the match. Still, that confidence may falter against such an opponent. He burns with determination to exceed perfection. Coach K sits down with you to analyze Gene's fighting style. They watch the championship bout between Till Schneider and the reigning lightweight king. K explains that 5 true monsters rule the boxing world. Junior welterweight Yuto Takeda, middleweight Fabrizio Santorino, cruiserweight Victor Grigorievich, heavyweight Aaron Tide, and lastly the undefeated lightweight champion Jean-Pierre Manuel. He has won nearly all by knockout, and has never tasted defeat. Jin possesses an extraordinary technical edge, extends his punches close to an opponent's eyes, using that reach to obstruct their vision. With such range, he exerts minimal effort to dominate, and his reach even surpasses yours. Kay points out that his arm length is only part of the equation. His blistering jabs leave opponents stunned as he darts in and out effortlessly, dismantling anyone before him. Kay compares those jabs to straight swords, piercing through defenses with surgical precision. His offense is ruthless, though his challenger refuses to crumble easily. The opponent slips past Jin's reach and attempts a counter to the face. Jin appears exposed, yet he smoothly rolls his shoulder to deflect the strike, then answers with a crushing hook to the body. Afterward, Jin resumes his relentless jabbing assault. Kay explains that he baited a body exchange to flip the momentum entirely. Such decision-making is rare, with only Jin and you capable of executing it so flawlessly. Moreover, Jin wields another advantage you lack, switching stances seamlessly to attack while opponents hesitate. Just as his rival builds rhythm, Jin shifts back again and continues the punishment, exploiting his ambidextrous mastery. This dual stance ability leaves rivals unable to anticipate his next action. He notes that he gradually drains hope before unleashing a storm of punishing blows. Jin wins without error, resembling a flawless chess grandmaster. Kay reminds you of the many layers you must overcome to defeat him. After his dominant victory, a reporter seeks his thoughts. The champion openly acknowledges imperfections in his technique. He even states that facing you that night might have led to his own loss. Far from afraid, the champion expresses his desire to fight you. Coach K is thrilled by this prospect, excited by opponents who constantly evolve. He wonders how much Jin will adapt before meeting you, as this bout could truly test your limits. During your clash with Kasim, champion carefully studied every subtle muscle movement, watching you fire precise, emotionless jabs. With flawless coordination, Jin could not hide his admiration. He described the underdog's performance as simply beautiful. Jin's thoughts grow increasingly consumed, to the point he absent-mindedly spills his coffee. His partner asks what troubles him so deeply. She is irritated that boxing always occupies his attention. She resents how little notice he gives her. Jin bluntly calls her behavior irritating. Jin's coach later gives an interview praising the champion's abilities. He portrays him as an artist who has devoted his life to perfecting every movement, like a painter endlessly refining his masterpiece. Jin continues meditating during Peter's broadcast. The reporter also interviews another boxer from the same gym, who claims Jin operates on a completely different level of madness. Before every fight, he meditates intensely, battling his inner demons for an hour. The boxer concludes that Jin is eccentric and constantly does the strangest things. He remains motionless for a stretch before subtly shifting his stance. Then after another long pause, adjusts again. The punk eventually figured out what the champion was up to. Jin was practicing a basic jab, breaking down each tiny movement with surgical precision. In short, his madness fuels extraordinary outcomes. Peter struggles to accept this routine because it seems bizarre, while the coach insists Jin never truly rests during meditation. Instead, he refines every one of his senses. His focus grows so intense that the outside world fades away. Peter feels helpless since he cannot interrupt the champion's trance. He attempts to meditate beside him. The coach begins guiding him through the process. Sitting opposite the famed lightweight king, Peter is overwhelmed by his presence. He slips into calmness and tries to live fully in the moment. Everything around him grows quiet. All he can hear is his own heartbeat, and the deeper he concentrates, the sharper that sound becomes. Coach explains that someone like Peter can only sense his pulse, but a phenomenon like Jin operates on another level entirely. He senses every strand of muscle within him, even down to his blood flow and tissue. His body functions in flawless harmony, driven by his obsession with mastering technique at its peak. After finishing his intense meditation, Jin notices Peter has already left. He admits that Yu has been on his mind constantly. He even recognizes that perfect technique means nothing against someone who perceives the world differently. Jin seeks a concentration far beyond normal limits to overcome such an opponent. His sparring partners suffer endlessly as he uses them to polish perfection, even taking on 3 at once. He orders them forward, and the poor men rush him head first. Blink, the exchange explodes, yet Jin still feels his focus falls short of defeating the monster he envisions. When asked what boxing means to him, Jin describes it as a pursuit of art, strives for flawless execution in every motion, seeing the world title as proof of absolute mastery and wanting nothing else. The moment Yu threw the first jab of his career, Yu recognized its beauty the way a master like John did. On a rainy evening, police officers investigate a group of street criminals. Rumors spread of a man who had beaten them mercilessly. Their suspicion would be correct. It is Jin roaming the streets for extra practice by crushing thugs. What raises alarm is how carefully he collects their blood. Back home, it is implied he paints with that blood in a twisted ritual. Yet even that does not satisfy his craving for perfection. Following day, his shadowboxing turns unusually rapid and aggressive. Even his coach is shocked, unable to explain the sudden loss of his usual composure. Jin imagines battling a shadow version of you that outmatches him each time. His improvement seems unnatural, worrying the coach about what extremes he has embraced. Training concludes, the champion prepares to depart. His coach stops him to question his drained appearance. After a pause, he grins eerily and claims he feels better than ever. The coach advises him to ease up on himself, but as a fanatic for boxing, he instead returns to the streets for another 5-on-1 brawl. Jin carefully observes every weapon pointed at him. He scoffs at their reliance on tools. Gang leader reaches for his firearm, yet Jin strikes first and drops him with sheer speed. He flows seamlessly into an attack on the second opponent, pleased with his precision. Moving to the third, he calculates each blow with calm intent. After dodging a knife with care, he unleashes a brutal swing that sends the attacker crashing. Final member panics after witnessing the carnage. Jin shows no favoritism and ensures she receives the same treatment. Suddenly, the situation escalates into true danger as the leader reappears, aiming a gun directly at him. For a split second, fear grips him. He gathers total focus and slips past the shot with explosive movement, evasion reminiscent of Yu's devastating attacks. Afterward, Jin believes he has finally matched your level of perfection. That night, he beams with childlike joy, painting a monstrous figure that embodies his vision of Yu's terrifying style. The next morning, his coach trembles at Jin's altered demeanor. The champion radiates mania, as if transformed overnight. Coach wonders if he has crossed some invisible line. Visualizing Yu's flawless strikes, Jin unleashes a storm of punches to surpass human imperfection. At last, he believes he has overcome his final barrier. In his mind, the champion has attained perfection. Stella grows anxious and weeps for him. Meanwhile, Josh works behind the counter at the same bar. He tells her they are closing and asks her to leave. She complains, wondering if she annoys him too. He vents her frustration at men in general, while Josh quietly questions his own life choices. The scene then shifts back to intense training. Sports defined abs as he pushes his endurance to new extremes. Carmen is stunned by the increased intensity before the title match. Kay reminds him to prepare for every possibility and chase his own art. Oddly, she feels certain Yu will prevail. He trusts Kay's instincts because he always chooses winners and lives for victory. Though she senses his hidden thoughts, Carmen still cannot understand why he chose boxing. As he finishes training and prepares to leave, she finally asks him that lingering question. After a brief silence, Yu admits he once glimpsed a faint light of hope. Remembering Jay's unwavering spirit, he pursued boxing because of that inspiration. Carmen remains confused by his vague explanation. Even Yu confesses he cannot fully explain it. He reflects quietly on his words, wondering whether she will ever discover such meaning in boxing herself. Amused, she realizes he is gentler than his tough exterior suggests. Everyone who enters the ring carries powerful motivations, whether driven by money, influence, or personal ambition. The two destined opponents stand as the elite of their division. During his interview, Jin's heart pounds with anticipation to face Yu. Meanwhile, our boy looks sharp and confident in his suit. Later that day, Jin makes a startling request to his coach. He insists the match must continue even if it costs him his life, revealing how deeply he desires this fight. Last, the day of their long-awaited battle arrives. The reigning champion had ascended to another level of existence, sensing even the faintest stimulus. Whether adjusting his clothes, brushing against something, or simply taking a step, he had entered a state of power where every element felt interconnected. Jin smiles, understanding that this heightened awareness mirrors the way Yu has always lived. Jin, the dominant king of the past decade, now stands before an unbeaten challenger with a staggering win rate. The stakes could not be higher, and the world watches. He boldly declares that Yu will seize not only this belt, but eventually every championship available. Yu remain emotionless, standing rigid like a machine. Across the ring, Jin's coach assures him he has surpassed all previous limits. This is his ultimate chance to validate his ideals and fulfill his lifelong pursuit. The two fighters step forward and lock into position. Soon the question of who will claim the title will be settled, and the anticipation among fans everywhere is electric. Bell rings to signal the start. Yu struggles at first to evade Jin's rapid-fire jabs. The champion presses forward with relentless aggression. Even Coach K is impressed by how quickly Jin has refined himself. Before the clash escalates, the narrative shifts to the creator's own life experience. He once pursued basketball with obsessive dedication. Then one defining instant changed everything. He leaped so high it felt as if he touched the sky. A perfect jump where every motion aligned flawlessly and freedom filled his body. Yet that magical moment passed. No matter how hard he tried, he could never replicate that same flawless leap again. Similarly, a legendary baseball batter once described sensing each molecule of an incoming pitch, body responding in seamless harmony during those rare peak moments. Countless athletes across sports have experienced something similar. Now imagine that phenomenon amplified 100-fold inside this ring. Jin's immaculate jabs slice through as you weave carefully between them. His mechanical analysis tracks use every twitch, predicting movements before they unfold. In response, the champion unleashes a daring counterattack. Commentators are stunned watching you struggle against Jin's overwhelming reach. The title holder is applying tremendous pressure. They can only label him a prodigy. Yet now Jin has evolved into something monstrous, forged through relentless effort. He reflects on soldiers enduring brutal wars, recalling his own days in special forces. Each battle demanded absolute awareness, and Kei himself once moved through gunfire in a state of mastery, sensing every split second as bullets passed by. He believes human potential can be pushed to terrifying extremes. Both fighters have transcended ordinary limits. Jin's greatest weapon is his total bodily control, timing every contraction and release flawlessly. That mastery preserves world records and cements his status as champion. He has long wanted you to experience boxing at its purest form, a contest where two individuals measure their true strengths. He eagerly anticipates seeing how far Jin has stretched human boundaries tonight. You slip past the jabs and steadily close the gap, drawing near enough to threaten offensively. The crowd erupts as both fighters display near superhuman reflexes. He wonders how you intend to overcome that enormous reach. Yu recalls Kei's advice to study past championship bouts daily. At first, you assumed it was to copy their techniques. Instead, Kei urged you to understand their movements deeply, without inheriting their flaws. His sole instruction was to trust your own body in the fight. Suddenly, you adopt an unfamiliar stance, leaving spectators bewildered. Jin senses the shift instantly and hesitates despite your open guard, wary of your power. Yet a thunderous punch crashes into his face, stunning viewers around the globe. That single strike sends Jin crashing to the canvas, revealing the true force of this monster. Stella watches in horror as the champion falls. Jin lies there dazed, face battered, trying to comprehend what occurred. Even those outside the ring cannot grasp the sequence. The referee begins the count. Jin's coach remembers his promise not to interfere. As the numbers tick on, Jin replays the exchange in his mind. He understands that even his perfection pales beside Yu's otherworldly skill. Still, he yearns to witness more of that overwhelming strength. Summoning his resolve, Jin rises despite unsteady legs. The referee recognizes the danger of continuing. Yu's raw power is beyond ordinary endurance. Considers stopping the bout, yet Jin's determined gaze unsettles him. He asks if the champion can proceed. Jin responds coldly that he is prepared. Referee warns he will intervene if it becomes too severe, but Jin refuses to retreat and readies himself again. The fight resumes with him holding his stance. Yu instantly returns to the posture that felled him before. Jin knows failure to intercept means devastation. As Yu surges forward at terrifying speed, both brace for another collision. Jin appears prepared, and it seems you might be struck. Yet in a flash, you slip beneath the blow and land another crushing punch across his face. He notes how Jin turned his head to lessen the impact. Still, it is clear he is nearing defeat. Champion absorbs punishing strikes, forced to tighten his guard, but Yu hammers his body with relentless hooks. Even his coach admits endurance is not his strongest trait. It was astonishing he stood after the first devastating blow. With the assault, Jin continues analyzing. Yu shows no mercy, unleashing a torrent of punches with increasing speed. Jin realizes you fight without ego or fear, focused solely on executing technique. Crushed again, he finds strange joy in the experience. He falls for the second time within the opening round. The crowd is nearly certain a new champion will be crowned. As he lies there, Jin reflects on human imperfection. Memories of his parents' bitter divorce surface. His upbringing was troubled like many others. He grew up in a household filled with constant noise. Count continues while his coach pleads for him to surrender. In his darkest thought, he believes he should never have been born. Coach K erupts in celebration, amazed that he has once again achieved what seemed impossible. Jin pushes himself upright without hesitation, because resilience defines him. Breathing heavily and completely drained, standing before an opponent so overwhelming it dwarfs all humanity. When his mother walked out, Jin's father collapsed into a miserable shadow of himself. He lacked responsibility and never considered the fallout of his actions, ultimately tearing the family apart. Unlike his father, the boy saw himself as steady and capable, believing he possessed true patience. Inside the arena, spectators thunder with applause at the champion's relentless determination. Ignoring everything around him, Yu adjusts his stance for the third time, signaling what could be the bout's conclusion. Coach K waits eagerly for the decisive finish. Meanwhile, Stella silently hopes for her partner's safety. Yu bursts forward at astonishing speed, intent on ending it all. Yet the referee steps in at the last possible second before the fatal strike lands. Bell saves him just in time, closing the first round and sparing Jin when he was moments from disaster. Even so, Coach K insists Yu has demonstrated dominance beyond even the division's so-called prodigy. After all, he alone managed to endure the opening round, while every other contender fell. Jin receives urgent care from his coach, who never imagined the champion would suffer such punishment. His concern now centers on the fighter's survival, rather than any championship belt. The coach snaps Jin back to reality, urging him to withdraw before the match costs him his life. In a trembling reply, Jin reflects deeply on what life truly signifies. He believes there is no greater honor than giving one's life in pursuit of a dream. Naturally, his coach refuses to accept such a reckless philosophy. Jin insists he must acknowledge his very being within this battle, and she firmly repeats that nothing should interfere with his resolve. Champion steps out for round 2, though whether he can withstand more of Yu's crushing blows remains uncertain. Amid the fiercest fight of his life, he recalls being deserted by his father in the middle of nowhere, a man he understood all too well. He even pitied the man, feeling no tears over the abandonment. Rather than sorrow, he felt let down by a father who made empty promises about a quick trip that never ended. Suppressing his feelings, the child chose to forge ahead alone. Determined not to mirror his father, he chased an ideal of flawless excellence. Now the figure before him embodies that very ideal. Perfection he long sought stands in front of him, and Jin enters a state akin to yours, ready to stake everything on this last bout. His coach suspects he has gone insane, but events have already spiraled beyond control. Jin attempts to mirror the same terrifying technique after witnessing you. He nurtured Jin's boxing gift. The coach considers stopping the fight out of genuine concern. He hopes Jin will embrace his humanity, instead of discarding it in pursuit of hollow greatness. Even Stella feels as if she is watching a man determined to throw his life away. The decisive collision looms, yet just as he moves forward, Stella's frantic voice cuts sharply through the tension. She pleads desperately for him to value his life and remain with her. A surge of powerful emotions suddenly overwhelms him. Despite the cold mask he wore as a child, he trembled in fear and sadness the day his father abandoned him. Stella reveals at last that she is carrying his child. His memories flood back as he stands torn between two opposing paths. One path seeks monstrous perfection, the other preserves his humanity. It means embracing the parts of himself he long denied. Jin remembers that his coach once sheltered him when he was lost, a poignant reminder that he nearly repeated his father's mistakes. Rather than continue fighting, Jin steps out of the ring and is disqualified from the match. Many assume he fled in fear, comparing him to the coward Kasim. Coach K's rage burns so fiercely, it seems he might combust. Jin personally places the championship belt into your hands, declares you the rightful winner, leaving Coach K furious over the forfeited glory. After a decade-long reign, Jin is replaced by you, the new lightweight king whose power is unmatched. His career statistics now stand as one of the most remarkable records ever seen. Following the bout, Jin receives treatment for his wounds. He quietly asks his coach whether he will make a worthy father. Stella enters with tears streaming down her cheeks. He embraces him despite his injuries, as his career ends with an almost flawless legacy that cements him among boxing's elites. Around the globe, fans continue to applaud him. Yet to you, it all sounds like meaningless clamor. His physical prowess is regarded as extraordinary. Even the junior welterweight champion Yudo finds himself uneasy. Meanwhile, Ryu is absent, occupied with personal matters. Confronts a gang member known ominously as the Butcher. Ryu questions why he is squandering time dealing with such lowlifes. His crew arrives. They are stunned to find every opponent already defeated, including their leader. Ryu recalls Yu's face vividly. Rage consumes him, and he vents by mercilessly kicking the fallen man. Frustration boils within Ryu over how he has been wasting his potential. As for Jay, he is the most enthusiastic friend imaginable. Yu's blank expression suggests he feels nothing for titles, raising doubts about why the introverted cat lover ever chose boxing. Jay celebrates alongside Steel and his trainer, and it's revealed the blonde prodigy will soon make his debut. Jay flashes a gentle grin that seems out of place in the brutal sport. His coach reminisces about facing Jay's father in the ring years ago. He strictly forbids Jay from studying your old matches, insisting his unique style stands apart. Instead, he advises him to analyze Yudo Takeda's bouts, fighter widely regarded as the world's finest boxer. Even with that guidance, Jay remains a beginner compared to a certain elite competitor. Coach remembers that legendary figure, respected globally, and the very man who once rescued you. Jay's preparation for his first professional fight begins in earnest. In this realm, some rise by conquering hardship. Others grow resentful after tasting early victory. Then there are monsters like you, towering as the ultimate challenge for everyone else. Though each fighter carries a personal tale, the spotlight ultimately shifts to the blonde boxer as the true lead. He discovers that the boy he once saved now holds the world title. He unexpectedly appears at the training gym. Johnny and his coach are stunned as the radiant man recalls a promise he intends to keep. Meanwhile, Jay continues enjoying life to the fullest. Convinced he will surpass his limits, the narrative now centers on Jay's journey. After you crushed Bakugo's cousin last Tuesday, Coach Typhoon Kim gazes out the window in a dull, somber mood. He once had high hopes for Ryu, but those expectations have lost meaning. Typhoon had intended to entrust his gym's prized talent to Coach K. At least, that was the fantasy he entertained in his own imagination. Everything shifted when a greater gem shattered the former star. He felt empty and unrewarded after Ryu abandoned boxing. Yet unexpectedly, another figure stepped forward. He arrived at the gym accompanied by his father, leaving him utterly bewildered. The blonde teenager hurried at top speed to shift the massive weight. Jay struggled significantly with poor eyesight, which became a major flaw. Jay's father recognizes his son's love for boxing, recalling how he and Typhoon were fierce rivals in there. Although Typhoon's overall record was impressive, Jay's father consistently had the edge in their head-to-head clashes. In those days, Typhoon had the looks of a model and the fists of a powerhouse, blending technique with total dedication to the sport. Jay's father stood like a fortress, absorbing the full force of Typhoon's blows. Openly admits that Jay's vision poses a serious concern. As a child, Jay nearly lost his sight after suffering a severe injury. Because of that trauma, the broccoli-haired kid struggles badly with judging distance. At this stage, Typhoon pushes Jay through grueling drills to ensure no weakness goes unaddressed. He stresses that Jay's only viable tactic is to endure punishment until he finds a narrow opening to counter. Still, mastering range alone will not solve everything. Jay takes a vicious uppercut due to lacking strength in his punches, revealing how far he must go to match even an average pro. He fires back with a tight hook from close quarters. Typhoon urges him to overwhelm opponents with relentless combinations. He even bans Jay from wearing glasses so his eyesight can sharpen naturally. Every muscle is conditioned to craft a body capable of surviving brutal exchanges. Typhoon refuses to let his foolish trainee debut before he is truly prepared, especially with such clear disadvantages. Their sessions continue relentlessly, even incorporating absurd motivational lines from television chefs. Typhoon's aggressive mentoring reminds him of why he fell in love with boxing. He sees Jay's potential not as a polished jewel, but as a living tree. While some people's worth seems predetermined at birth, a tree keeps growing no matter how often it is bent or broken. Typhoon wants Jay to mature into a sturdy tree, capable of withstanding immense pressure. Time is granted equally to everyone, and these three main figures are no different. You advanced at an unbelievable pace in almost no time. Ryu, meanwhile, crashed and burned entirely. Then there was the one who resisted instant gratification, patiently waiting for future rewards. Last, Jay's debut bout was officially scheduled, and his opponent confirmed. His coach hesitates to reveal that the challenger is someone who could utterly dominate him. It feels like a titan versus an insect, as Rock Kang boasts twice the victories and minimal defeats. Rock was once a champion, and is a master of close-range combat with experience Jay cannot match. Rookies rarely face such veterans, but the roster left no alternatives. Steel predicts that Jay will be torn apart in the ring. Typhoon smacks his bald head and demands optimism, mocking him for speaking about eyes he doesn't eat. Silver lining is that they have their own infighting expert, revealed to be Steel himself, a middleweight national champion. Acting like a budget Mike Tyson, Steel trash-talks Jay as if he were an easy win. Infighters thrive on hooks and uppercuts at close range, turning matches into grueling wars of endurance. Typhoon trains Jay to embody the steadfastness of a tree. Even so, brute force alone would still crush him. Coach admits Jay's build favors outboxing rather than absorbing hits up close, facing an opponent vastly superior in skill. Real question is how Jay can possibly bridge that gap. He bursts forward with surprising speed to slip around Steel. That quick movement creates an unexpected opening. Jay darts to the side to strike like a smaller Tyson. Instead, he gets smashed in the face, proving how tough it is to challenge a seasoned veteran. Still, rookies hold one edge over veterans by studying footage to uncover exploitable flaws. Jay's greatest asset is that no one has analyzed his style yet. Meanwhile, his rival has countless televised bouts available for study. Typhoon plans to capitalize on that by anticipating Rock's habits. They note that he favors hooks and uppercuts early on. He also throws sharp straights whenever he senses vulnerability. Typhoon identifies the liver as a prime target, since a clean shot there can cripple even champions. Plan is to bait Rock into false confidence, then punish him the moment he commits. Jay's intense preparation continues without mercy, pouring everything into each drill. He develops a powerful frame that contrasts with his youthful face. On the eve of the match, his pulse races, and his father notices he has slipped out of his room. He is outside practicing alone, shadowboxing under the night sky. His father witnesses the remarkable growth his son has made. Jay confesses that he fears facing such a formidable opponent. Possibility of losing his debut torments him. He dreads being labeled a failed boxer from the start. Sensing his anxiety, his father comforts him with stories of his own early struggles. Becoming a pro is about surviving each bout, though that is only part of boxing. To him, something greater than winning defines the sport. He recalls a radiant fighter whose presence eclipsed any result. He urges Jay to discover his own meaning within boxing. Jay reflects deeply on that advice. Then he sharpens his focus entirely on his opponent, determined to give everything. The debut arrives, and nerves make his body tremble. Steel bluntly says it is natural to feel weak when you are inexperienced. Confident coach exposes Steele's own shaky nerves from his first fight, admitting he was terrified beyond belief. Jay steps forward, ready to embrace the spotlight. His father cheers from the crowd with unwavering support. Each stride toward the ring carries firm resolve. Under the bright lights, he faces his imposing opponent. The man looks even more intimidating up close. Jay suppresses his fear and concentrates on his training. Typhoon reminds him of their carefully crafted plan. He remembers to act like an outboxer before switching to close combat. He prepares for every possible strike that might come his way. Jay gathers his courage, and as soon as the bell rings, a punch rockets toward his head instantly. All the encouragement collapses in that split second. Blonde rookie is dropped by the very first blow. Typhoon notes Rock's immediate aggression stems from ignorance of Jay's style. Most fighters would have stayed down, but Jay once faced bullies despite impossible odds, and he is ready to do so again. From schoolyard beatings to blows from champions, he has endured relentless punishment. Years of taking hits have hardened him into someone remarkably resilient. He realizes that getting struck oddly calms his nerves. Even the champion is surprised by his endurance. The bout resumes. This time he guards his chin carefully, as the champion charges to close the gap and finish quickly. Yet Jay's superior speed allows him to evade the intended strike. He continues dodging, reinforcing the illusion that he is purely an outboxer. Rock believes brute strength will eventually overpower him. Closing the distance to corner the supposed outboxer, he lunges forward only for Jay to slip past and stun him. He answers by firing a crushing uppercut straight into his opponent's chin. That first clean strike sends him crashing to the canvas at once. The ex-champion is stunned, realizing he was perfectly caught by that uppercut. It dawns on him that he has been outmaneuvered by someone who is secretly an infighter. Typhoon senses that the true contest is only starting now. Both fighters have now sampled each other's power and style. They close the distance again, provoking one another in tight quarters. A test of endurance unfolds as Jay plants his feet firmly into the canvas. Rock cannot help but admire the rookie's surprising toughness. They trade blows at an evenly matched rhythm. Typhoon reflects that the boy lacks the natural gifts of elite fighters, yet something indefinable sets him apart beyond mere effort. Even the champion agrees that Jay shows refinement uncommon for a beginner. Still, he remains inexperienced and absorbs heavy combinations from a far more aggressive foe than Steel. Jay relies on quick footwork, sliding sideways to exploit narrow gaps. He peppers Egghead with rapid jabs, though they lack the force to truly sting. The exchange mirrors his sparring sessions with Steel. Familiar patterns repeat themselves, only now Jay reacts with sharper speed. His corner remains confident in his potential, as he corners Rock while slipping nearly every counter. Having endured harsher punches before, Jay can now match and evade with experience. Typhoon begins to envision a scenario where his student actually triumphs. When the round ends, the coach advises him to protect his lead moving forward. Rock Kang, for his part, is genuinely impressed by the newcomer. Against a standard rookie, Jay's evasiveness would have been overwhelming. His slick dodges seem inspired by a higher-level fighter known as Bitchface. Even so, Rock believes the fundamentals still favor him. Meanwhile, Jay's father senses the seriousness of the situation. As the second round unfolds, Jay carries himself with youthful confidence. He darts in with combinations, seizing the upper hand through speed and volume. Each successful exchange edges him ahead on the scorecards, feeding his hope of victory. Rock swings a hook that narrowly misses Jay's torso. Jay stays light, aware that one clean hit could finish him. His father worries, hoping Typhoon notices the same red flags. The coach, however, remains absorbed in admiration of Jay's growth, confident that the win is within reach. After surviving the round, Typhoon urges him to conserve stamina, knowing Rock will soon gamble on a decisive strike. Suddenly it becomes obvious that Jay is far more fatigued than expected. Typhoon quickly understands the cause as he studies Rock's tactics. Jay's father has feared the mounting mental strain, draining his son's energy. The psychological warfare and relentless blows differ greatly from training, and Jay struggles under the pressure. Though he lands impressive shots, they sap his remaining strength. Rock exploits this exhaustion, dictating the pace. Typhoon realizes that if this trend continues, Jay will be crushed. He anticipates Rock's next maneuver and places his faith in Jay to surpass the seasoned veteran. With resolve, he urges his pupil to fight as he always has. The third round commences, begins once more as a grinding battle of durability. Like before, Rock conserved energy while Jay burned through his reserves. Jay's speed has noticeably diminished, making evasion difficult. It is clear he is now retreating under pressure. Rookie absorbs more punches as his guard falters. He manages occasional counters, but they lack impact. Typhoon grows increasingly anxious. Jay stubbornly presses forward, narrowly slipping a monstrous left hook, even earning a nod of respect from the former champion. Yet in the exchange, his defense drops, and a crushing hook slams into his face. It appears to be the blow that seals his fate. He collapses onto the canvas. The referee begins the count. Lying there, Jay feels the gap in experience weighing heavily on him. Still hardened by years of taking beatings, he rises once more. Rock recognizes that only someone tested by adversity could stand again, and he gains respect for the rookie. Out of respect, Rock prepares his strongest technique, a dangerous sign for Jay. Though momentum favors Rock, this is the very moment Jay anticipated. Slips beneath a punch to craft an ideal opening, and drives a fierce shot toward the liver, yet even that decisive attempt is blocked. A counter follows, sending Jay down once more. It seems the rookie cannot overcome the veteran's edge. On the mat, he reflects on what defines a person's worth. Even Rock silently hopes Jay will grow stronger from this trial. Victory and defeat are settled at the final bell, and only a few ever conquer such heights. Few truly endure the fire required to reach the summit. Jay, the answer is simple. He refuses surrender regardless of outcome. He resolves to give everything, win or lose. Despite 2 knockdowns, he rises again. The referee considers stopping the bout to protect him, sees the fierce determination still burning in his eyes. Respecting that spirit, the referee allows it to continue with a warning. Fight resumes as Rock tears through Jay's guard, applies relentless pressure without restraint. Just as before, he traps Jay and unleashes a barrage. Jay accepts that he may lose his debut, yet he fights not for pride but to grasp the true essence of strength. Even while absorbing brutal blows, spirit demands that he stand and continue. Rock is astonished that the rookie pushes back despite exhaustion. Jay knows his stamina is nearly depleted. The outcome will hinge on one final exchange. Rock acknowledges that Jay surpasses others in his class. His father cheers him on from the sidelines, while Typhoon reflects on the overwhelming obstacles Jay has faced. Believing in the boy's hidden quality, Typhoon accepted this risky match. Seeks his answer through Jay's performance. Rock's punches grow heavier rather than fading. Jay can barely remain upright on shaky legs. Devastating straight rattles him unlike anything he has endured before. Rather than harboring envy or resentment toward his rival, our radiant blonde hero instead honors the immense dedication and years of refinement his opponent has shown. Their styles are shaped by the lives they have lived up to this very second. Boxing becomes a dialogue between 2 warriors, each carrying a different journey that forged them. Winning and losing fade in importance, as Jay discovers the pure joy of fighting within that shared space. Rock unleashes his ultimate weapon, a devastating straight aimed to finish it. Though he orders his legs to react, his body feels frozen in place. Gathering his last reserves, Jay narrowly slips the blow and sees the perfect chance for a liver strike. But his stamina is drained, and he accepts what seems like certain defeat. Then he recalls Ryu's brutal recoil punch from their earlier clash. In a split second, he imitates it, landing a crippling shot to the liver. He follows up with a crushing right hook to the jaw. Rock falls hard and shows no sign of rising again. After pouring everything into the bout, Jay achieves an unbelievable victory. Meanwhile, Bakugo's life appears to be spiraling downward. He has been handed a harsh 6-year prison sentence. In contrast, the boy who embraced growth celebrates a triumphant debut. Jay stands stunned, while Steel can barely contain his admiration. Coach Typhoon feels vindicated for trusting his instincts about Jay. His father has never felt prouder. Even Rock is surprised by the depth of Jay's resolve. Those last-second counters were the mark of a true professional. Rock confesses he has never enjoyed a fight so much, and vows to cheer for Jay's future. Outside the ring, Jay may be awkward, but his bravery speaks louder than words. The veteran sees clearly that this youngster is destined for championship contention. Still, he worries about Jay's inevitable clash with the reigning champion. Later that night, Jay lies awake in bed. The fight replays endlessly in his mind. The realization of becoming a professional boxer finally sinks in. He reflects on the hardships and barriers he overcame to reach this milestone. A bright, childlike grin spreads across his face. He kicks his legs in excitement, knowing Ryu's influence helped him arrive here. Instead of sleeping that night, he practices shadowboxing against memories of his former rival, rehearses dodges, and recreates key moments from the match. This time, however, he imagines himself struck cleanly. It reminds him how narrowly he escaped defeat before. Jay hopes to face Ryu again someday, unaware that Ryu now sits behind bars. After exhausting himself further in practice, he prepares to head home, yet quitting for the day does not feel right. Suddenly, he senses Ryu's looming presence. Before the bout even begins, Jay Jay realizes the gap between him and the boxing prodigy is enormous. While he rests, Yudo trains relentlessly to challenge the monster who defeated Jean. Yudo blocks incoming strikes with unwavering confidence. Like the disciplined champion he is, he plans countless additional training sets. The narrative shifts to a reporter noting Kei's dissatisfaction with the match's outcome. Kei publicly declares his intention for Yu to conquer the junior welterweight division. He even wants to challenge the champion directly, though regulations stand in the way. He advises Yudo to savor his title while it lasts. Soon after, a fight is arranged between Yu and Elliot von Heinberg. Elliot ranks at the very top of his division worldwide, facing Yu, the reigning lightweight champion, in a class known for its brutal talent. Despite being hailed as supremely fit, Elliot foolishly underestimates the storm awaiting him. His ambition is to topple Yudo. Instead, he becomes your next victim as expected. You dismantle him effortlessly, evading every attempt he makes. Toy with him without even needing to counter. Elliot feels humiliated, unable to land a single meaningful blow. For a fighter of his stature, such disregard cuts deeply. By the end of round 1, his confidence is shattered. His coach scolds him to regain composure and focus. Round 2 begins and ends swiftly, as you dispatch him with overwhelming ease. The fight serves as a public declaration of strength to the division's champion, a clear message to Yudo that his challenge is coming. Yu proves he can end any bout whenever he chooses. His talent places him at the summit of the sport, whereas Yudo symbolizes relentless effort. He continues running drills while his coach looks uneasy. They once believed Jean would be manageable for Yu. Now even Yudo's toughest adversary has been humiliated, raising concern. Yudo pushes himself harder than ever in training. He understands the danger he faces. His coach shares that same fear. Everyone senses the threat, yet Yudo refuses to stop preparing. Returning home, he reflects on those lifeless eyes he witnessed. Doubt creeps in as he wonders if victory is possible. Grasp the nature of the junior welterweight champion. His coach labels fighters like him as tireless workers. Peter bluntly claims that those who brag about hard work are often losers. Takeda's coach agrees that prideful boxers love boasting about their hours of effort. Yet she argues hard work alone cannot distinguish the elite from the average. Every boxer trains intensely, but only a few possess true talent. Reaching the top demands both natural ability and dedication. Routine alone is insufficient. She dislikes empty boasts about effort, believing they hide a lack of uniqueness. Then there is Yudo, their blue-haired champion, who defies her earlier argument as she watches him train with unmatched ferocity. She is certain no one else matches his level of commitment. Remembers his first gym visit as an ordinary, untalented child whose father enrolled him for self-defense. Naturally, the coach wasn't thrilled by the suggestion, and instead advised that Yudo's father enroll him in judo. Eventually, the boy's dad chose to shut down the milk shop, which oddly seems to be a common pattern among boxing fathers. Soon after, during his very first lesson, Yudo was introduced to the fundamentals of boxing. He was blessed with natural athleticism, moved with effortless rhythm and coordination. Yet this kid might have been the worst possible prospect for a professional boxing career. He would shake nervously and stumble over himself like a frail runt. Simply put, Yudo was once labeled as nothing more than an average, untalented boy. And yet today, that same child stands as a world champion in a major weight class. She inquired about Miho, the boy's mother. She was informed that Miho's health had begun to stabilize. The trio had grown up side by side, with Miho and Hiroto constantly spending their childhood together. Among them, Miho was always the most fragile and accident-prone. She often relied on the others for help, and before they knew it, their youth passed by in a blur. By then, Misaki had already devoted countless hours to honing her boxing skills. Meanwhile, Hiroto committed himself fully to mastering judo. He always wore a bright grin after he and Miho began dating. Their romance complicated the friendship, and though she expected it, she felt heartbroken and kept her feelings to herself. Despite everything, the three continued to share joyful memories together. Misaki cherished their bond and chose to stand by their side. She remained thankful for the time they had, even as she silently wished for more. Without warning, Hiroto passed away. At the same time, Miho's illness took a turn for the worse. Before he died, Hiroto had been overwhelmed by stress and even considered leaving his job. As a police officer, he refused to ignore thugs beating a defenseless stranger. Driven by justice, he confronted the men he saw as spineless cowards. He passed down a powerful belief to his son. True strength, he said, means facing fear bravely and inspiring others through courage. He fought relentlessly to protect the innocent. Sadly, the injuries he suffered proved fatal after the confrontation. Misaki unexpectedly received a call from him. The sudden ring startled her deeply. Instinctively, she sensed that something was terribly wrong. With a strained voice, Hiroto conveyed his final hopes for Yudo. That day marked the death of the boy's father. Miho's health continued to decline. Misaki bore immense pain as she delivered the news of Hiroto's death. collapsing in tears and pleading for Miho to wake up. Her vulnerability, Misaki finally admitted the love she held for her friends. Despite her heartfelt words, Miho succumbed to her illness shortly after Hiroto's passing. The loss left Misaki utterly devastated, so much so that she began questioning her will to live. Yuto clung to the memory of his father's teachings. He declared that he would never yield to fear and would give others courage, believing that was the path to true strength. Though he lacked natural ability, he possessed remarkable mental resilience. Misaki asked if he truly wished to continue boxing, reminding him of the harsh defeats that awaited him. The boy paid no mind to her warnings. All he wanted was to walk the same path his father once did. Thus, the bond between mentor and pupil was solidified. With nothing else left, she devoted herself entirely to training Yuto. In doing so, she made him the reason she chose to keep living. Unsurprisingly, even with encouragement, he still performed terribly at first. For an entire month, he couldn't properly execute even the simplest punch. His movements lacked fluidity, as if he were memorizing steps without grasping the logic behind them. Years of relentless effort shaped him into a formidable fighter, turning Yuto into a force few could ignore. A decade of grueling preparation transformed him, beginning with intense conditioning of his body. Each morning started with a 6-mile run at dawn. He powered through 2,000 sit-ups. He followed that with 1,000 push-ups, pushing himself to near superhuman levels. Even as a teenager, he maintained strict boxing drills, understanding that every exercise built his dominance in the ring. At first, despite reaching his physical prime, he struggled badly against seasoned fighters. Misaki explained that everyone progresses along a personal growth curve. On this graph, talent and hard work intersect to shape development. A person begins at zero and gradually improves day by day, enjoying rapid progress until natural limits cause stagnation and plateaus that even professionals face. Yet those who endure can achieve mastery before age eventually brings decline, and compared to champions blessed with immense talent and strength, Yuto's chart looked pitiful with almost no improvement after 3 years, leaving observers stunned as others surpassed him. So imagine overcoming all that to become the world's greatest infighter. Misaki revealed that everything shifted when he awoke in a hospital. That moment altered the direction of his entire existence. At that time, he was still attending high school. Most people grow up admiring certain heroes or role models. For Yuto, that hero was his father. Starting at a new school, he noticed how different he was from classmates chasing their own ambitions. Within the halls, there were always aggressors and those they targeted. In his class, a loud blonde student constantly harassed a quiet introvert. Yuto stepped in bravely, stunning everyone with his fearless stand. He grabbed the bully firmly, giving him a harsh lesson in return. Whispers spread quickly that Yuto was Hiroto's son. They admired him until he suddenly took a punch to the face. The bully threw blow after blow until he wore himself out. Yet Yuto remained calm and unaffected, making his attacker look foolish. The bully eventually fled, and Yuto's reputation soared as students anticipated his dominance. Sadly for the class troublemaker, he refused to change his behavior. Once again, justice stepped forward. Bully tried to act tough and superior. He lunged recklessly at Yuto. With a single punch, Yuto flattened him instantly, highlighting the vast gap in their abilities. After sending him to the floor, he planted a powerful conviction in those watching that genuine heroes still exist in the world. Walking home, the rescued boy apologized for always leaning on him, admired Yuto's strength openly. Yuto, however, believed he was nothing special and simply worked hard. He decided to bring the timid boy to meet his coach. Misaki was irritated at first due to the lack of students, yet she burned with determination to train Yamaguchi. She revealed her Olympic gold medal background and vowed to mold him into a champion. Out of desperation, she even lowered the membership fee for him. Yuto then realized he had trained for free his entire life and thought the boy should appreciate the opportunity. During practice, Yamaguchi witnessed the relentless intensity of Yuto's daily regimen. Misaki assured him there was no need to feel intimidated, as Yuto's talent still lagged far behind professional standards. The boy was stunned that someone so strong still fell short of elite fighters. Misaki urged him to carefully observe Yuto's dedication. She stressed that persistent effort can strengthen anyone despite the trials they face. On the way home, Yamaguchi felt energized and excited about the possibility of transforming himself. In life, no one gets to choose the circumstances of their birth. Still, some surroundings nurture growth, while others drag people through unbearable hardship. Yamaguchi lived with a mother trapped in addiction who lashed out at him, mocking the idea that someone like him could have friends. And after being abandoned by her partner, she stayed only for the child's support money. With uncertainty in his voice, he asked his mother if he could take up boxing. He responded by insulting him, offering not a shred of warmth. The focus shifts to the bully, furious after being thoroughly beaten. His crew was excited to test the strength of this new fighter. They had recently discovered another boxer, aiming for a world title. Meanwhile, the story returns to Yamaguchi. He carried a fierce determination to transform himself, so he showed up to join Yudo during his morning run. Blue Boy was delighted to have company. He advised Yamaguchi to keep a manageable pace. Sadly, Yamaguchi was completely exhausted, as Yudo kept sprinting farther ahead. Being someone his own age trained so relentlessly made Yamaguchi admire him deeply. Despite the toxic atmosphere around him, Yamaguchi clung to his desire for change. When they finished, Yudo praised him for enduring the entire run, pointed out the stunning sunrise, and after the workout, Yamaguchi felt an unfamiliar sense of joy and freedom. The evening before school, the bully learned that the so-called hero simply sought fights with the toughest opponents. Rumor had it he had defeated hardened criminals, proving how unhinged he truly was. His curiosity to battle strong rivals only grew, making Yudo his next target. The polite fighter even invited the class bully to share a meal. The bully couldn't comprehend his personality at all. After their clash, he even found an apology note from Yudo, yet such kindness felt more like an insult than mercy. Enraged, the bully rejected the gesture and stormed off. He was boiling with frustration. Now others mocked him since he could no longer intimidate them. Life moved on, and the bully gradually faded from sight. Yudo kept training alongside Yamaguchi as the latter slowly improved. One ominous night, Kazu contacted Yudo. He claimed to have Yamaguchi in his custody. Introducing himself as some edgy anti-hero, he behaved more like a true villain. He warned that calling the police would result in Yamaguchi getting hurt. Yudo hurried to the scene and immediately confronted him. Kazu enjoyed toying with people for his own amusement. Crushing weak opponents bored him because they posed no challenge. After hearing of Yudo's rising reputation, he decided to hunt him down. Yudo was furious that this chaos stemmed from something so trivial. He charged forward to strike Kazu. Kazu evaded effortlessly. The madman even complimented Yudo's technique. Still, he handled him as if he were nothing more than a plaything. Even the former bully believed defeating Kazu was impossible. After all, Kazu had crushed every gang around, earning a monstrous reputation. But something about Yudo caught his attention. He concluded there was nothing extraordinary about him, just emptiness without innate skill. Yudo repeated basic combinations like a programmed character. Kazu realized that only relentless coaching had built this strength from scratch. He landed a brutal hook, demonstrating the gap between them. He commented that Yudo's style relied on straightforward fundamentals. In contrast, Kazu possessed natural brilliance in boxing. The bout bored him immensely, then unleashed a devastating blow. Reeling, Yudo questioned why someone so gifted chose selfishness over helping others. Kazu dismissed him with indifference and continued the ruthless assault. Beating was merciless until Yudo collapsed. Yamaguchi felt ashamed of his helplessness, realizing that those who live only for themselves fail to see value beyond their own gain. That night he returned home, only to find his mother battered once again. The following day, Yudo regained consciousness in a hospital room. Beside him lay a letter from Yamaguchi. The boy had resigned himself to labor, sacrificing his youth to earn money. He understood that a normal life was beyond his reach. Ultimately, overwhelmed by his harsh reality, he chose to disappear from Yudo's world. Reading those words sparked a profound change. Yudo transformed completely and swore to surpass his previous limits. Even while injured, he went straight to see Misaki. He declared he would become so strong that he would embody proof that hard work can overcome any circumstance. That moment marked the true birth of champion Yudo Taikta. After hearing about his clash with Kazu, Misaki pushed him hard in training. She knew Kazu's prodigious talent had already earned him recognition as the next great boxer. Wanting to back Yudo's ambition to defeat him, she humored his dream in training while he intensified his efforts. Meanwhile, Yamaguchi sank deeper into misery at his dead-end job. Eventually, Yudo faced Kazu for the second time. The outcome was the same. He suffered another crushing defeat. Even so, he swore he would one day shatter Kazu's natural gift. Afterward, Blue Boy altered his approach, left school to dedicate himself entirely to boxing. Misaki, as the adult, questioned whether she should guide him toward a more secure future. She wondered what advice his parents might have offered. In the end, she gave him the approval he longed to hear. Yudo's training only intensified from there. He moved relentlessly between machines. Soon, the night of their third bout arrived. Yudo lost yet again. Unshaken, he returned to practice with even greater resolve. Then came the fourth encounter. He was defeated once more. After further training, he challenged Kazu a fifth time, much to Kazu's growing boredom. Yudo suffered another loss. Yamaguchi wept, trapped in his despair, remained bound by his harsh surroundings. Meanwhile, Yudo trained daily, determined to turn impossibility into reality. Years went by, and he endured dozens of defeats at Kazu's hands. Each morning he awoke obsessed with training, so stressed he could barely separate dreams from reality. Misaki was astonished. as she watched him push far beyond his supposed limits. It became undeniable evidence of an athlete surpassing his natural ceiling. When Yudo stepped up to challenge Kazu once more, even Kazu was taken aback by how much he had progressed. Although the result did not change, Kazu admitted he was pleased to witness that kind of development. Yudo could barely form sentences, yet every word he muttered centered on the errors he had made. Kazu gradually found himself impressed by Yudo's steady improvement. Eventually, there came a day when Yudo actually posed a real threat to him. At the same time, his friend was wrestling with thoughts of ending his own life. In his third year as a professional, Yudo hit several rough patches in his growth, yet he evolved into a beast who surpassed even Kazu's genius and finally delivered the long-awaited punch. Yamaguchi recalled the radiant sunrise, the one he had admired with Yudo during their very first run. The man who transcended natural talent had come into existence. In his prime, Yudo Taikta declares that boxing proves anything can change through relentless effort and commitment. Regardless of the situation someone is born into, champion fights to demonstrate that hope belongs to everyone. The long-awaited day arrives, the ultimate clash between world champion Yudo and lightweight prodigy Yu. The arena erupts for Yu's divine-level talent as he steps out, his extraordinary gaze captivating the crowd. He is the fighter who once went untouched by Jin. Now he seeks to claim a second championship. In the opposite corner appears the reigning champion, Yudo Taikta. Celebrated as the finest infighter alive, Yudo's tireless dedication carried him to conquer the junior welterweight throne. Contrast in their builds is almost comical. Yu's bottomless eyes stare ahead without emotion. Every spectator fixes their gaze on these two, embodiments of talent and perseverance. Even so, commentators confidently predict Yu will win swiftly. They doubt the champion can endure against such a calculated force. Misaki quietly reminds Yudo of the strategy they prepare. His pulse pounds as he faces the intimidating challenger. Yudo reassures himself that even if he falls, he can always rise again. The bell rings and he charges forward, trying to break through Yu's towering reach. He slips past the razor-sharp jabs aimed at him. Yudo pushes inside, dragging the battle into close quarters. Yet Yu evades smoothly and resets the distance. Misaki's plan is simple: suffocate him with pressure. Watching Yu's bout with Jin taught them that his signature strike is nearly impossible to counter. The only answer is to neutralize his range advantage. Yudo keeps advancing, denying Yu the space to unleash his deadly technique. Their idea is to stretch the fight across all 12 rounds, believing Yu has never endured a prolonged war and might eventually show cracks they can exploit. However, this straightforward tactic is already anticipated by K. In their preparation, he briefed Yu on Yudo's strengths. His physique serves as an iron shield. Combined with explosive speed and endless stamina, he is incredibly dangerous. As an outboxer, Yu should theoretically struggle against an infighter like Yudo. Yudo's endurance borders on absurd, rarely showing fatigue, even in drawn-out bouts. Initially, Yu intends to keep him at range. He decides to make a statement by shifting his stance. Yu astonishes everyone by copying the champion's posture. Kei wants the audience to witness what authentic talent truly means. The crowd is stunned, Yudo included. Refusing to overthink, Yudo focuses on pressing the attack. When the first punch crashes into him, the arena gasps in disbelief. A second blow lands cleanly, leaving him reeling. He is utterly confused about what is happening. Yu is replicating his movements with flawless precision. Still, he performs them faster and sharper than the man who spent 10 years mastering them. Misaki can only stare in shock. Yudo begins questioning every choice that led him here. He realizes this is overwhelming talent incarnate, a reality where Yu would likely defeat him time and again. The audience roars at Yu's dramatic transformation in style. Watching someone mirror the champion and dominate him so brutally is astonishing, and Yu shows no restraint. Even feints fail to fool him. Yudo tightens his guard. He is struck hard from the flank. The relentless flurry Yu unleashes mirrors the barrages Yudo once inflicted on others. Misaki senses the danger escalating. She prays he can at least survive the opening round, so they can rethink their approach. Bell signals the end of round 1, and with it Yudo's confidence seems shattered, his expression pale with disbelief. Misaki snaps him back, insisting this is no moment to lose focus. He struggles to respond, unable to see a clear path forward. Misaki insists that even Yu must have a vulnerability. He urges him to search for it in the coming rounds. Meanwhile, Kei relaxes calmly, as Yu initially views Yudo as underwhelming. Still, Kei warns that Yudo is a late bloomer who grows stronger under pressure. Could very well push Yu to his limits. Yet Yu appears utterly uninterested. Commentators speculate that Yudo must be hiding a strategy for the later rounds. Round 2 begins with Yudo stepping forward, only to be met by a crushing punch. He fires back almost immediately. Misaki tells him to trade blows and reignite his fighting spirit through sheer will. He follows her guidance without hesitation, even as he absorbs hit after hit. Yudo begins clinging to hope, believing that everyone possesses it regardless of scale. His aggression intensifies, ready to endure countless strikes as long as he remains standing. Now Yu finds himself pressured backward. Even Kei is impressed by this sudden resurgence. Some observers think Yu is barely trying, as if mocking the champion by holding back. The atmosphere shifts when Yu suddenly retreats to widen the gap. Yudo attempts to close in, but his optimism fades. He is overwhelmed by a storm of heavy punches. His defenses crumble as Yu reveals a glimpse of his true power. His guard exposed, Yudo takes a devastating blow to the stomach. The impact drops the champion to his knees. Adversity he anticipated has not even fully begun. Yu stands poised to dismantle the reigning champion before the world's eyes. Among the spectators sits a familiar figure. It is Yamaguchi, cheering desperately for Yudo. Narrative highlights that while effort appears inspiring, in reality it often brings isolation and mental exhaustion from relentless repetition. Misaki glimpses the shadows of his parents and her departed friend in him, as he strains to hold himself steady like a plank under immense pressure. After training, Misaki nearly tried to persuade him to abandon boxing, but ultimately chose to hold back. In the arena, the junior welterweight champion is racked with intense agony. Drawing breath has become a struggle. Yet Blue Boy recalls the strength he gained from his bonds and forces himself to rise once more. Still, Yu remains completely composed, leaving everyone wondering how Yudo can possibly surpass him. As the round unfolds, Yudo evaluates his position, knowing he must endure punishment and force his way inside Yu's reach. He succeeds in pressing forward and narrowing the distance with relentless pressure. Coach K cannot help but admire his attempt at a comeback. Even so, Yudo senses he cannot maintain this pace forever. Yu shifts aggressively, leaving Yudo barely a moment to decide his response. Prodigy unleashes a devastating strike, yet something remarkable occurs. The champion slips past the attack, catching Yu off guard in the final instant. Coach K beams at the hardworking fighter's effort. As round 2 nears its end, Yudo's relentless charges keep Yu on edge. Champion withstands brutal blows to an extreme degree. Even his legendary endurance begins to falter. Yudo surges forward with increased speed, only to be struck with overwhelming force, sending him crashing down for a second time. Misaki briefly considers stopping the fight. Yudo lies there looking drained and defeated. Then he remembers the reason he stepped into the ring and pushes himself upright yet again. Living up to his ideals, Yudo Taekta reignites the crowd's excitement. His eyes appear vacant of awareness. Even the referee notices his fragile state. Yamaguchi realizes that Yudo is fighting to prove to the world that hope is real. He was the one who helped Yamaguchi rebuild his shattered life, even inspiring his mother to seek treatment. Another crushing hit lands on the champion. Still, he refuses to give up, battling on when he should not. Yamaguchi silently begs him to stay down. The bell rings, and Yudo becomes the first fighter to push Yu into a third round. His coach reprimands him sternly, but Yudo can barely react, focusing only on closing the gap. His head spins with dizziness. Misaki urges him to endure until a chance appears. He wonders how her departed friends would judge her now. She regrets not guiding him toward a safer life. The third round begins, and Yudo is immediately bombarded by savage attacks. Despite his suffering, Coach K admires how Yudo continues improving each round. Like a classic hero, he grows stronger in the face of adversity. K believes this trial will prepare Yu for his eventual clash with heavyweight champion Eren. Rounds 4 through 6 unfold. Yudo's unwavering spirit and stamina persist. After enduring endless punishment, he still hopes for a miracle. Coach K observes his visible fatigue and wonders what choice he will make under such pressure. Yudo falls again under a crushing blow. Crowd wishes he would remain down, except for Yudo himself. He tries to stand but collapses, his lifeless gaze fixed before Misaki. Recalls a quiet talk they once shared beneath the stars. She believed he pushed himself too far, warned him about life's harsh truths and the cost of overcoming them. Misaki feared that relentless effort might ultimately break him. Having lost dear friends, she wanted him to cherish life. Yet those cherished memories also made her own life meaningful. She wishes he would release his burden and value his existence. Champion she raised from youth had become her greatest blessing. With renewed fire in his eyes, Yudo Taekta rises once more. His determination shines brightly as the round resumes. Yu narrowly avoids a heavy strike. Evading Yudo's attacks grows increasingly difficult. Yudo commands the center of the ring with dominance. His coach is astonished because Yudo once lacked the natural rhythm that geniuses possess. Yet in this very fight, he has discovered that flow, stepping into the realm of true talent. His growth surges at an unbelievable rate. He seems nearly unstoppable, until Yu counters with 3 devastating strikes. Yudo collapses as Yu's overwhelming power ends the bout. Coach K is moved to tears by what he witnessed. During Yu's intense offensive surge, K saw the awakening he had anticipated. That awakening leaves the champion critically injured. Misaki erupts in fury. She attempts to lash out at Yu, but Kay restrains her. She declares that what occurred was monstrous, not boxing. Meanwhile, heavyweight King Aaron Tide watches intently, observing the fighter who may one day challenge him. Yudo's injuries are severe, including a shattered jaw that could end his career. Saki sits aside, regretting not stopping the fight earlier. She even questions whether she should have trained him at all. Tears fall as she feels she failed her friend's legacy. Yet Yudo sincerely thanks her for everything. Memories of their shared journey flood her mind. She feels indebted to the boy who gave her purpose. Basket of fruit arrives with a heartfelt note from Yamaguchi, wishing his mentor a swift recovery. Soon, Yudo's healing accelerates and discharge approaches. Doctor mentions another patient who admires Blue Boy. This child has long received Yudo's donation for a rare illness. He battles daily with little sign of improvement. Watching the champion rise repeatedly inspired him to keep fighting. Boy declares he wants to grow strong like his hero. Those words remind Yudo of his father. Overcome with emotion, he hopes he has honored his father's ideal of strength. After his extraordinary boxing journey, he finally allows himself a moment of vulnerability. The focus shifts to the infamous Santorino brothers, as middleweight champion Fabrizio Santorino watches the newcomer crush two title holders in succession. His brother and coach, Marco Santorino, realizes they are next in line. Yudo Takeda's devastating loss was followed by the downfall of two additional champions, claimed belts across 4 weight classes, and drew crowds rivaling Fabrizio's own popularity. Tearing through divisions effortlessly, you left a trail of defeated contenders. Now his sights are set on the most notorious villain in boxing. Fabrizio suddenly storms onto the stage, catching everyone off guard. The audience showers him with boos due to his disgraceful reputation. Unbothered, Fabrizio boldly commends you for remaining untouched in every bout. To stir the crowd, he theatrically reveals a handgun, taunting you as if daring you to dodge a bullet. Spectators erupt in chaos at the sight of him, brandishing a weapon before the champion. Yet our stoic protagonist shows no trace of fear. Fabrizio slowly squeezes the trigger. Proves to be a tasteless prank, perfectly matching his twisted humor. The crowd despises him for such a reckless stunt. Their outrage only grows when he fires real shots into the air, instantly silencing the arena. He proclaims that he will destroy his opponent inside the ring instead. The scene changes to Carmen arriving at our hero's residence. He brings several men with her, leaving him puzzled. Acting under Kay's instructions, they comb through every inch of the house, and the discovery of hidden cameras confirms something is terribly wrong. Carmen personally examines suspicious parcels, only to uncover another of Fabrizio's cruel jokes. It sent a decapitated cat's body in an attempt to intimidate him. She orders her team to take care of it, explaining that both Santorino brothers are disturbingly unhinged. Marco specializes in psychological warfare, terrifying opponents before they ever step into the ring. They act like animals. Kay's squad can handle them, and Carmen is tasked with monitoring everything you touch as the mind games escalate. After an exhaustive sweep of the property, they uncover 30 separate surveillance devices planted around him. Carmen recounts how Chavo Uris claimed the middleweight belt after Bob Norris retired, the same Bob who now serves as a commentator. He was one of Kay's legendary 5, molded into a lethal competitor. Carmen reflects that Kay's last 2 pupils hardly resemble ordinary humans. Shortly after Chavo's coronation, Fabrizio dethroned him by exploiting his mind. Marco orchestrated the manipulation behind the scenes, ensuring Chavo could not perform at his peak. Carmen stresses that defeating Yu's next opponent requires more than skill, warning him to trust only her and coach Kay against such dishonorable foes. Yu continues his routine training under Carmen's vigilant supervision. He notices his monotonous existence revolves solely around home and gym. A darker look creeps into Yu's eyes, hinting at deeper melancholy. On their way home, he inquires about the bodyguards, and Carmen assures him they are stationed nearby, urging him to prioritize his own safety if attacked. Unable to trust outsiders, Carmen takes on cooking duties herself. She advises him to avoid outside food, since workers can easily be bribed. He prepares an elaborate spread of dishes, quietly admiring her culinary talent. Yet she is startled when she sits opposite him and notices his somber expression, a look she had never witnessed before. Shock deepens when he struggles to eat without feeling sick. Carmen's confidence plummets as he barely finishes the meal. That night he showers before bed. Years of training have sculpted him into a physique reminiscent of a Greek statue. Even Carmen cannot help but glance at him. He reflects on how his body transformed through relentless discipline. Afterward she learns he avoids the bed, choosing to sleep on the bare floor, surprising her again. Since she must guard him, they end up sharing the same space. He begins to see a more human side to him. His eyes reveal he is on the verge of tears. The thought that this feared fighter has vulnerability fascinates her. Kay's security team delivers surveillance footage to him, keeping constant tabs on Yu. The following day, The guards struggle to keep pace with the champion's brutal regiment. Even with strong endurance, they cannot match the 4th Division king. Turning home, Yu glimpses Carmen with messy hair, and she quickly slams the door shut. Moments later, she reappears composed, leaving him confused. At the gym, Kay shows him footage of Fabrizio's latest bout. Features middleweight champion Fabrizio against contender John Renaud. Kay observes the madness in John's eyes, evidence of prior psychological torment. Much to the Santorino brothers' delight, match begins evenly. You watch with slight surprise. Kay explains that Fabrizio thrives in chaotic brawls, notorious for dirty tactics. Fence means little to him, as he relentlessly attacks. His dramatic style earns both spectacle and criticism. Opponents are forced into his rhythm, exactly as he intends. He even hints that Fabrizio relies on substances to bridge skill gaps. Peter sits among the spectators, recalling their earlier interview. The brothers seem indifferent toward the sport itself. Marco mocks fans while claiming they provide entertainment. John is headbutted without penalty from the referee. When he retaliates, he alone is reprimanded, revealing the referee's bias. Marco boasts about how they dominate the boxing world, turning professionalism into savagery. John's fury stems from a personal betrayal. His daughter had begun dating Marco, a blow more devastating than any uppercut. Marco deceived her into believing he was sincere. Despite her father's warnings, he trusted him blindly until she returned home in tears one day. It was clear Marco had shattered her emotionally. That is why John burns with vengeance against Fabrizio. Fabrizio exploits John's emotions and ultimately defeats him through fouls and manipulation despite John's superior skill. This is the caliber of opponent awaiting you. He resumes dawn training alongside Carmen, unaware of multiple men secretly observing them. Drunken man nearby has been heavily paid to spill something on you. He is drugged to ensure compliance. As Yu approaches, man feigns a stumble, but Yu sidesteps swiftly and avoids contact. Carmen had instructed him to avoid anyone attempting to get close at all costs. She insisted he avoid answering any of the journalists' inquiries. Marco is out there spreading countless ugly rumors about our guy. Carmen was fully aware they intended to twist the narrative in the press. Still, she is more than willing to counter with a move of her own. She quietly planted her own informants within Santorino's crew. As a result, the following day he finds himself drowning in intense media scrutiny. Rather than irritated, he finds the situation surprisingly flattering. In this world, cash rules everything, and Kay has limitless funds thanks to his thriving gym. Things are running smoothly overall, aside from the issue with our boy's meals. Apparently, the food tastes absolutely terrible. For security reasons, every package sent to him gets destroyed. She is unable to leave his side and is forbidden from using electronic devices. Fortunately, that is hardly a problem since he is such an extreme introvert who barely uses gadgets anyway. Carmen firmly reminds him that, although Fabrizio will not physically harm him, same cannot be said about the cat. She would rather he remain alert to keep his precious feline safe. Coach keeps staring intensely at the cat, clearly plotting something suspicious. It has been 5 years since you first showed up at her gym. That once high schooler has since captured titles across 4 weight classes. She feels confident that victory in his upcoming match is practically guaranteed. She even wonders whether Kay's grand plan is for him to eventually take down Aaron. Yet even if he defeats the legendary champion, she worries he might fade away like the others before him. As these thoughts cross her mind, a gang of thugs suddenly approaches their group. She is caught off guard and questions whether she underestimated the criminals nearby. Carmen's first instinct is to secure Yu's safety. However, our boy has already stepped in to handle the danger himself. He boldly snatches the weapon and fires at their ankles without hesitation. Boxer moves as if he intends to finish them off for good. Carmen intervenes just in time to stop him. In that moment, she understands he truly meant to kill them. Mirrors the look Jean or Yudo had when they abandoned all restraint. Despite witnessing that cold and ruthless side, she still believes in his humanity. He clings to the hope that something gentle still exists beneath his hardened exterior. Wanting answers, she abruptly invites him out on a date. 4th Division world champion is hilariously inexperienced and clueless about dating. Carmen patiently walks him through the essentials. He agrees, and on their next free day, they make plans. He is greeted by Carmen looking stunning and elegantly dressed. He feels slightly let down when she sees he intends to wear the most basic outfit imaginable. She styles his hair and discovers that Kay suggested the spiky look for his matches. After fixing his hair, she drags him shopping to upgrade his wardrobe. Carmen enthusiastically picks out the flashiest clothes she can find for him. Both of them flush with embarrassment at the bold selections. Nevertheless, she insists he wear the outfit even though he is clearly uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Carmen secretly enjoys teasing him over his awkwardness. They continue trying on numerous different styles. Each new look sends her into laughter. Eventually, he chooses a timeless suit that makes him resemble a runway model. Carmen approves instantly and heads to the register. Afterwards, they spend time at an amusement park. Roller coaster fails to excite him, but at least his girlfriend and cat have fun. Together, they sample a variety of attractions and activities. He even carries a balloon shaped like his cat, embracing the moment. Looking at their photos, Carmen grows irritated by Yu's expressionless face. She instructs him to copy a posing trick she plans to demonstrate. Carmen carefully forms a dazzling, picture-perfect smile. Meanwhile, he ends up looking hilariously awkward. Their next stop is a haunted house attraction. He cannot help but imagine an over-the-top romantic future together. Her strategy is to cling to him whenever she gets frightened. She jokingly tells him not to punch anyone just because of fake ghosts. Ironically, she is the one who gets terrified out of her mind. In panic, she smacks the zombie actor without mercy. She accidentally ends up taking down the threat for real. Carmen slowly realizes she may truly be falling for him. More chilling than any prop is Jean's lifeless expression. The two women shriek and startle one another. Men simply watch, completely baffled. Carmen is stunned to encounter the former world champion there. Her initial reaction is suspicion, and she recalls that he is a man of integrity who cannot be swayed by wealth. Stella openly resents Yu for sending her partner to the grave in their bout. Carmen fires back with sharp and confident words of her own. They end up sharing a table, tension thick between Stella and Carmen, while Jean looks surprised to see Yu there. Jean has noticed something different, as he vividly remembers every second of their fight. What unsettles him most is the calmness in Yu's eyes, almost as if he has reclaimed part of his soul. He glances at Carmen, wondering if she is the reason behind the change. Jean behaves like a proud and doting father figure. He openly pampers his child without hesitation. At one point, an ice cream cone drops right onto Yu's head. Jean is genuinely shocked, knowing Yu would normally never let something like that happen. Carmen gathers insight about his bout with Marco, who once pushed him to his limits. Marco was known for his tactical brilliance and even challenged Jean significantly. Despite the struggle, Yu's superior strength secured the win. Still, Marco's desperate hunger for victory was obvious to all. Former lightweight champ advises Yu to stay vigilant because his rivals are formidable. After they part ways, Jean remains uneasy about the ice cream incident, fearing complacency could lead to defeat. The evening concludes with the couple quietly talking together. Carmen gently asks whether he discovered what he had been searching for. Yu admits he wanted to chase it, but now feels more uncertain than ever. She asks if he would keep boxing even if the answer never comes. Carmen suggests he seek that same spark in another part of life. She encourages him to savor life's pleasures, so he no longer needs to search aimlessly. With effortless charm, she hints that the light he seeks might be sitting right beside him. After the fireworks light up the sky, an unfamiliar girl approaches him, claiming to be a fan. However, she carries a note from Marco addressed to Carmen. Carmen tears it apart without bothering to read a single word. Up until that moment, everything had been perfect. Even so, Carmen truly cherished their date. She would rather they return to their peaceful, everyday routine. In that instant, Yu surprises her with an unexpected request. He asks if they can continue going out together. She happily agrees without hesitation. Meanwhile, Marco secretly takes pleasure in watching their dynamic unfold. Life soon slips back into its familiar routine. Yu even begins to genuinely enjoy the meals she prepares. But as his feelings deepen, his edge in the ring seems to dull. Coach grows furious and demands a private talk with Carmen. He reprimands her for getting too close and enjoying herself. Kay is visibly irritated and questions her for developing emotions. Carmen attempts to defend herself but is cut off and removed from her role as his guard, and instead, Yu is assigned a new bodyguard, the oddly nicknamed Mr. Funny Nose. Carmen heads home feeling bitter and frustrated. She is suddenly confronted by a stalker lying in wait. The unstable middleweight champion, Fabrizio, had been anticipating this chance. It echoes Yu's earlier doubt about why striking others ever felt compelling. Carmen ends up gravely injured after Fabrizio's brutal assault. Yu is crushed when Kay informs him of what happened. Kay blames himself for failing to protect Carmen properly. He insists Yu must not let this distract him and should focus solely on training. At the press event, Kay comes face to face with Marco. He immediately confronts him about Carmen's condition, brushing it off with sarcasm. The reporter then asks each man for their thoughts on the other. Marco claims he admires Kay's relentless drive to win. However, he adds that Kay treats his fighters like disposable playthings, though his latest prodigy is monstrous enough to balance that out. Next, Coach Kay is invited to speak. He resorts to a classic insult and fires off a crude joke. The audience erupts, while Marco nearly lunges at him in anger. He taunts him to try, saying he is more than ready for a fight. It is unusual to see Marco this visibly irritated. The interviewer quickly turns the microphone toward Fabrizio. He boldly proclaims he intends to kill you inside the ring. Tension thickens as the mic is finally passed to you. The normally silent boxer recalls his emotional moments with the one individual who failed to see him as merely a weapon, but instead acknowledged his humanity. Ultimately, violence is what led to Carmen's suffering. Yu calmly announces that he will not end the match quickly. With a chilling grin, he promises to dismantle Fabrizio across all 12 rounds. Peter is stunned, since Yu has never voiced his intentions so openly before. Afterward, Marco vents his irritation, while Fabrizio continues pumping his body full of enhancers. He believes maximum dosage is necessary to counter Yu's extraordinary talent. On the morning of the bout, Carmen regains consciousness. The arena buzzes loudly, especially in praise of Yu's record across divisions. Stepping forward, Yu makes his entrance toward the ring. The stadium explodes with cheers at his arrival. In contrast, when his opponent appears, the excitement quickly shifts into hostility. Fabrizio is greeted with boos rather than applause. Santorino brothers respond with blatant middle fingers, uncaring about public opinion. The referee carefully wraps Fabrizio's hands to prevent foul play. Peter suspects the gesture is merely for show. Bob Norris predicts Yu has the advantage after enduring his emotional struggles. Meanwhile, Fabrizio appears absurdly muscular, as if his muscles have muscles. Coach K is fully aware of the doping involved. Bluntly tells Yu to do whatever is necessary in this fight. As the bell nears, Yu stands expressionless. Deadly aura surrounds him as both fighters lock eyes. The match opens with Fabrizio charging in at blistering speed, rivaling Yu's reflexes. This stems from Marco's calculated scheme to turn Fabrizio into a monster capable of victory. The middleweight continues applying relentless pressure. Marco's strategy revolves around mental warfare, believing Yu's flawless defensive record hides a fear of being struck. Fabrizio attempts an illegal low kick, expecting a typical fighter to absorb it. Yet Yu's lightning reflexes always force him to evade. Dodging awkwardly could expose an opening, just like in his first professional bout. To everyone's surprise, Yu reads Fabrizio's shadow and slips the strike. He retaliates with a ferocious counter. The blow sends Fabrizio flipping through the air. Spectators worldwide gasp as the doped challenger falls from a single hit. More unsettling is the strange pulse running through Yu's body. Kei had chosen to match their tactics, had secured a performance enhancer for Yu as well. He watches with satisfaction as the drug amplifies Yu's power. Carmen senses that something feels off. Astonishingly, Fabrizio rises after that devastating strike. As the fight resumes, Marco notes Yu avoided a knockout to honor his 12-round vow. After all, Yu promised to punish the Santorino brothers across every round. The focus shifts to Carmen, recalling her abduction. Her earliest trauma traces back to terrorists seizing her family. She watched helplessly as her parents were killed before her. Shock froze her mind and body in terror. She surrendered to despair, believing death was inevitable. A young Kei appeared and saved her. He supported her throughout her growth into adulthood. Once grown, she wished to work beside him, but he had transformed into someone she barely recognized. During Marco's capture, Carmen was mostly left unharmed. Though they attempted to frighten her, she steadied herself despite the looming fear. Marco later admitted harsher measures would have been avoided if she cooperated sooner. He quickly revealed he had a proposal to discuss. Curiously, the topic centered on Yu. Carmen insisted their connection was purely professional. Yet Marco understood she hoped to free Yu into a normal life, away from the brutality of boxing. He argued Kei would never allow it, as obsession had twisted him. Under Kei's guidance, Yu risked losing his remaining humanity as nothing more than a prized tool. Marco questioned whether Yu ever truly chose boxing, presenting a simple deal. He asked for Carmen's help to make Yu lose, freeing him from Kei's control, even though Marco stands as their enemy. Carmen admits that his reasoning makes sense. It is obvious that Kei's fixation could eventually push Yu toward insanity. Still, she trusts the man who once saved her, and believes both of them retain some humanity. She refuses Marco's proposal and tells him to win the bout honorably. Afterwards, she recalls regaining consciousness in a hospital room. Mr. Funny Nose, now serving as Yu's new guard, updates her on how the fight is unfolding. She remembers that Marco released her without causing real harm. His decision left her confused. Truth, Marco spared her because he did not want Yu's rage to spiral out of control. That leads to the question of how Carmen ended up so badly hurt. She claims she ran into several thugs, despite having beaten similar attackers before. Inside the ring, Yu is mercilessly dismantling the despised middleweight champion before a roaring crowd. Commentator Bob insists you could have triumphed even without performance enhancers. But this is Kei's doing, as he aims to prove he can outplay and overpower anyone who challenges him. He even considered harming Yu's cat, and used Carmen's injuries as fuel to heighten his fighter's aggression. After John Renau's defeat, His daughter revealed the hidden truth to him. She explained Marco never truly harmed her and only frightened her, begging her father to cease hostilities. This casts the Santorino brothers in a far less villainous light than rumors suggested. None of that influences you. He continues to crush them in the ring without remorse. Even from her hospital bed, Carmen feels compelled to intervene. However, Mr. Funny Nose warns her that Kay's ruthlessness knows no limits. He reminds her that Kay has taken many lives without hesitation. He strongly advises her to stay out of it. Meanwhile, Fabrizio endures an overwhelming barrage of injuries. Before the match, Marco reminded his brother to use strategy in mind. Knowing you planned to stretch the fight across 12 rounds, Fabrizio realized victory was unlikely, and shockingly, he dropped his guard to adopt a grappler's stance to use his reach. Yu remains a terrifying force. He suddenly dashes forward and vanishes from sight, only to appear behind his opponent. Yu unleashes a storm of rapid punches across Fabrizio's body with inhuman speed. Thoughts of Carmen drive him to strike even faster. Kay smirks, convinced that raw strength will overcome any scheme. Pure force, he believes, conquers all tactics. Yu now resembles a natural disaster, raining destruction without pause. He reinforces this by delivering a brutal blow to Fabrizio's groin, as if determined to end the bloodline of his enemies. Crowd witnesses the foul, but cheers wildly while the referee ignores it. Marco realizes the referee has been heavily bribed by Kay. Frustration spreads across Marco's face, while Kay stands triumphant as the mastermind of the chaos. Fabrizio is battered beyond recognition. He collapses unconscious as the opening round concludes. Vomiting from the punishment, he struggles to remain upright. Spectators celebrate his downfall and scorn the Santorino brothers. In a quiet church, a desperate woman prays for salvation. The older brother steps into the ring to shield him. Marco recalls their mother, offering him a drink to boost his performance. Though he did not want Fabrizio to take it, he allowed it, remembering their mother's plea to stop if victory seemed impossible. Fabrizio longs to win for his mother's sake, but he can barely comprehend his brother's words now. Marco quickly senses something is terribly wrong. The unnatural shade of his lips confirms it. He recognizes yet another layer of Kay's betrayal. Kay had spiked the milk Fabrizio drank before the match. Her mother, simple-minded and vulnerable, trusted too easily. The siblings, differing hair colors, reflected sacrifices she made to settle their father's debts. Marco never hated growing up poor. He accepted hardship as a normal part of life, but witnessing his mother struggle to pay rent pained him deeply. Marco and Fabrizio rarely attended school. They chose to earn money instead so Giulia could study. Marco, the clever one, organized their schemes. He distracted victims with smooth talk. Fabrizio lifted their cash. That was how they survived. Eventually, their mother grew desperate, lacked funds to cover their debts. She left at night and returned by dawn. The brothers understood her suffering and aimed to free her from it. The world showed no mercy to rich or poor alike, and slum children were no exception. They were beaten by a man accusing their mother of theft. He threatened police involvement unless she obeyed him. Next morning, she confronted her sons. Unable to defend themselves, they endured her punishment. Though they knew stealing was wrong, Marco could not ignore her pain. He refused to accept a society that abused his disabled mother. To them, cruelty seemed to define reality. After striking them, she wept and apologized for failing them. Marco rejected this unjust world and sought vengeance as escape. As a child, he turned to his brother for help in learning to read. He discovered early that boxing champions earned fortunes and enjoyed luxury. Back in the present, the match resumes with Fabrizio being savagely beaten. Years earlier, Marco considered asking teachers for help and began teaching his brother literacy first. He spent afternoons searching for their school. As a boy, Marco worked numerous small jobs to gather money. While the family rested, Fabrizio noticed his brother laboring tirelessly. Marco vowed to avenge the man who exploited their mother, believing he was destined for darkness. Yet he hoped Fabrizio and Giulia would avoid his path. He dreamed of making his brother a champion while he bore the burden of sin. One night, he set out to confront the drunken, bald man. When the man bent to pick up $1, Marco struck him with a stick. The boy misjudged how many blows it would take to bring him down, so he fled and prepared several traps. The pursuer stumbled into one of them. He fell face first into sticky tar. Seizing the chance, Marco hurled sharp stones at his head. Knowing he could not overpower an adult directly, he resorted to calculated long-range attacks. The bald lunatic flew into a rage, exactly as Marco had anticipated. Marco had already prepared numerous traps throughout the alleyway. The intoxicated fool chased the boy blindly instead of thinking ahead. As he pursued, Marco activated yet another hidden snare. A massive rock slammed into the man's back, though it failed to finish him. Marco immediately set off an additional trap. It crushed the man's nose, yet the stubborn brute kept advancing, forcing the boy to retreat. Eventually, Marco halted and faced him with a sharp blade in hand. The bald thug mocked the child for attempting murder. He feigned an opening to mislead him, then unleashed a painful strike. The blow dropped Marco to his knees. The attacker insulted Marco's mother and declared the boy should be eliminated. Marco coldly agreed that trash like him deserved removal. Fabrizio seized control of the moment. The brothers joined forces and viciously beat the bald man. Together they overpowered and subdued him. Afterwards they took the cash he carried. They intended to send a warning through this act. Marco ensured the man would never trouble anyone again. Later, Fabrizio admitted he no longer cared for school and wanted to follow Marco's path. Marco dreamed of mastering boxing and claiming world titles, so no one would ever belittle them again. Next day, the crippled man was found after the boys' savage assault. They used his money to buy meat and briefly bring joy to their mother. Though the pie tasted awful, it was enough to spark smiles. For the struggling Santorino household, their mother cherished Sundays for prayer and precious time with her children. Soon after, Marco and Fabrizio sought to learn boxing. Sadly, no proper gym existed in their town, leaving only shady underground clubs. One afternoon, an aging drunk offered to teach them the sport. He introduced himself as Luciano Mondi. To the boys, however, he was just another nobody. The old man had witnessed their earlier violent encounter. Marco responded with a threat of his own. Seeing the fire in their eyes, Luciano proposed training them, becoming their first mentor. His method was simple: make them fight each other without guidance. The brothers began trading blows. Luciano silently evaluated their talent. He noticed Fabrizio's natural fighting instincts, overpowering his elder sibling. Marco displayed sharper judgment and long-term planning skills. Luciano explained that boxing required both mental acuity and physical prowess, and each brother possessed one strength. Boys openly declared their ambition to become champions. Luciano argued ambition alone was insufficient without balance. Specializing in only one trait would make the climb difficult. Ultimately, obsessive hunger for victory would define their path, fueling their resolve. The old drunk bragged he could mold them into champions if they followed him. From that moment, he began their harsh training. Luciano advised them not to dwell on flaws. Instead, he urged them to sharpen their natural gifts. His training regimen showed no mercy. Years passed and the boys matured into adults. As grown men, they confronted their father, who abandoned them with crushing debt. They beat him and forced his signature under threat of further violence. Luciano kept out of their affairs, knowing he was not their guardian. Marco later invited him to join their Christmas dinner. At the gathering, they jokingly introduced him as their employer. Her mother welcomed Luciano warmly after Marco presented him as their boss. Julia, now older, was surprised by the visitor. She had always been perceptive. Marco quickly hushed her curiosity. Julia broke the tension by playfully tugging at Luciano's beard. For a moment it seemed their mother might scold them. Instead, she laughed and joined the playful mood. Soon dinner was served. Family prayed before savoring the meal. Afterward, Luciano thanked them sincerely for the evening. Marco even suggested he move in with them. Luciano refused, believing he belonged to the streets. He parted with advice, warning them against arrogance and reminding them stronger monsters existed. He encouraged them to abandon crime and live honorably. Fabrizio shifted the mood to a snowball fight, pelting the old man in the face. Laughing together in the snow, they felt carefree like children again. Marco insisted they would still rise as champions after purging crime from their town, accepting his role as an outlaw. He believed he must become a necessary evil to remove greater threats. In his own twisted way, he sought justice, willing to bear punishment in the end. Luciano judged no one, wishing them well despite their sins, till the mafia tragically claimed his life. Julia later spoke fondly of Luciano with their mother. Then disaster struck unexpectedly. Mother's health rapidly worsened. Maria prayed desperately for her children's safety. Prayers seemed unanswered as you continued brutalizing Fabrizio. Julia rushed to assist her weakened mother. Meanwhile, her son endured unbearable punishment in the ring. Yet he demanded more as the fight descended into carnage. Even Bob questioned why officials had not halted the obvious slaughter. Marco understood the association, expected the brothers themselves to concede. The crowd's bloodthirsty cheers only fueled the spectacle. Coach K had orchestrated everything flawlessly. The fourth round ended, leaving 8 still to go. Marco urged surrender, arguing they could earn money again even without the belt. Fabrizio refused, shocked at the suggestion of quitting. Thought of disgrace enraged him. In the past, Maria and Julia were assaulted by criminals. Though they survived, Luciano was gravely wounded. He suffered a deep slash across his abdomen. As round 5 begins, Yu gazes coldly at his fallen opponent. Fabrizio recalls Luciano's advice that while they could dominate the underworld, they should instead pursue greatness in boxing, even in a world filled with fighters like Jean and Bob, someone in the world they could never hope to overcome. It cautioned them that one day they might face a genuine monster. Luciano's warning proved true, as Fabrizio locked eyes with a true predator. He once said victory in life is fleeting, because new enemies always rise. No one stays at the top for long before fading away. That had been the fate of his own household. It was implied he once walked a path similar to the Santorino brothers and paid for it with his family. Teaching those boys boxing gave him no grand purpose, even if they never became champions. Later, the brothers had to arrange brain surgery for their mother. Yu slams Fabrizio down, much to Kei's satisfaction. He urges him to show absolutely no restraint. Fabrizio can barely keep pace with the onslaught. Meanwhile, Marco remains torn about what action to take. Luciano passed away after leaving final words for his students. Julia rushes their mother to the hospital as her condition worsens. Fabrizio is clearly unfit to continue, and Marco pleads for the fight to end. Quitting feels like betraying all their sacrifices. The match drags on even though Marco knows his brother is outmatched. He is ready to throw in the towel if Fabrizio's life is truly threatened, though that moment seems long overdue. Round 7, Fabrizio becomes the only fighter to endure Yu's brutality this far. Yu presses his attack relentlessly, giving Fabrizio no breathing room. As round 8 begins, Yu recalls a childhood conversation with his brother. Spectators begin questioning the point of continuing this slaughter. Fabrizio refuses to surrender even if it destroys him. Round 9 sees Yu still battering him mercilessly, landing what feels like hundreds of punches while Fabrizio barely clings to consciousness. The 10th round commences. Fabrizio's resentment toward the cruel world fuels him as he resents how hard ordinary life can be. By round 11, the canvas is stained with the champion's blood. Then comes round 12, the last chapter. After enduring so much, Fabrizio's face is nearly unrecognizable. Marco prepares to concede defeat. Association officials restrain him, showing how fragile justice can be. Julia desperately prays for their mother's survival. Marco fears his brother may not live through this. The audience is essentially witnessing a live execution. Marco shouts for Fabrizio to flee. Yu smashes his face with another savage strike. Blow after blow rains down. This time Yu unleashes everything, tearing him apart. Fabrizio is already unconscious, yet Yu continues. His hearing fades as he sees only a beast dismantling him. Even so, he swings once more, determined not to abandon his principles. Fabrizio dares Yu to strike him head-on. 5 seconds remain. Yu charges for what appears to be a fatal blow. 3 seconds tick by as Julia receives a call from the doctor, then 2. Reflects on her family in that instant. With 1 second left, Yu lunges to finish him, shocking the entire arena. A radiant figure suddenly appears and intercepts the punch, saving Fabrizio. At the same moment, Julia learns their mother survived. The glowing savior who once rescued Yu returns to the stage. Some recognize him immediately, while others are puzzled. It becomes clear that Jay has stepped into the ring, sparking rumors of a comeback. Jay calmly tells Yu they will meet as opponents someday. He passes Kei, who seethes at the intrusion and threatens retaliation. Marco urgently calls for medical help for his brother. The middleweight championship bout finally concludes. Yu claims victory decisively, disproving doubts about his stamina. Peter calls him the embodiment of boxing perfection and suggests he has crossed into something beyond human. Kei's unprecedented intervention halts the carnage, and though such an act usually brings legal consequences, no one dares question him. Peter believes Yu has evolved into a terrifying force. Jean and Stella watch in silence, Stella filled with anxiety. Jean worries more about Kei's influence than Yu's power. He hopes someone might eventually rescue Yu from this path. Yuto Takeda also observes the match. His girlfriend notices sadness in his expression. Yuto agrees, recalling a similar look on an old friend. That memory unsettles him deeply. The focus shifts to Steel, realizing Yu has grown overwhelmingly strong. So proud of Jay's achievements, he fears the direction Yu is taking. Typhoon reminds him to focus on his own upcoming fight. He himself has achieved major success and approaches a title opportunity. Fabrizio regains consciousness beside Marco. He is stunned to still be alive. Marco explains Jay's interference, leaving them confused. He apologizes for allowing things to escalate so far. Instead of anger, Fabrizio feels a strange relief. Brothers break down in tears. They were once just abused kids trying to earn money for their mother. After recovery, they reunite with her. Their family finds peace again, accepting who they are and closing that chapter. Attention now turns to Yu's next challenger. His coach Andriy Vilashenko eagerly anticipates facing someone capable of beating Victor. Reporters bombard Yu with countless questions. They even press him about Jay. None of it seems to interest Yu. He simply asks for Carmen to return. Kay tells him she resigned due to threats like the Santorinos. Kay feels pity for Yu, recalling the bond they once shared. He advises Yu to take a week off. During the break, Yu reflects on life's meaning. Sense of emptiness shadows him everywhere. Was purpose hidden in nightclubs or inside hospital rooms where lives hung in balance? Did it lie in a mundane office job or among protesters challenging authority? Might it be found in sorrow itself? Who questions the purpose of existence, haunted by his dark past? After everything, his mental state continues to deteriorate. He pressed the barrel to his temple, ready to pull the trigger and finish it all. A glimpse of his cat caught his eye and made him freeze. The heartbroken fighter lay down for the night with only his cat beside him. Perspective then transitions over to Aaron. He was gazing up at the sky, admiring the dazzling field of stars above. The heavyweight title holder delivers a flawless Riz performance toward his wife. Shadow of doubt lingers in his voice, sensing that disaster may be drawing near. Angela reassures him gently, standing by him as a devoted partner would. A warm grin restores the confidence he had begun to lose. Meanwhile, Yu remains painfully single, spending his time with his cat. Coach K feels pleased watching the sheer force behind Yu's punches. Their sights are now firmly set on Aaron, the reigning world champion. Though Victor is officially Yu's next rival, Aaron is the true threat looming ahead. The coach aims to sculpt him into the ultimate physique to crush the coming challenge, intensifying his workouts to brutal new levels. Yu proceeds to steamroll several more challengers without effort. It's always the same fools convinced they stand a chance, until his fist proves otherwise. The opening super middleweight bout wrapped up in under 2 seconds. The second clash against that grizzly bear-looking chatterbox followed. It also ended in 2 seconds, as champion Rook Stone was utterly dismantled. By the third match, Yu's opponent was already complaining, fully aware destruction awaited him. His trainer gives him due recognition. His overconfident hairball seriously believes he's some anime hero destined to triumph. That fantasy is shattered by a brutal uppercut, with Yu sealing victory in under 2 seconds. His final adversary holds the light heavyweight crown. He too is flattened barely a second after the bell rings. Yu cements himself as an unbeatable force, abandoning theatrics to simply annihilate anyone in his path. Peter suspects Aaron is Yu's true goal despite Victor being next, leaving their upcoming result uncertain. Andre bizarrely seems to root for his own student's downfall. When Mohawk Lover appears asking questions, the cruiserweight champion dismisses Hugh's strength entirely. Andre insists there's no way Hugh could overcome someone of his caliber. Victor nearly swings at his own coach in irritation. Guy is obsessed with Mohawks and is convinced anyone without one stands no chance against him. He's even gathered a full-blown following of Mohawk-wearing devotees. It's no wonder his trainer is completely exasperated. Peter assigns the Victor interview to his junior reporter, Tommy. Probably wondering about that decision, the reason becomes obvious when the young reporter arrives at the gym. The place looks nothing like a proper training facility should. A group of punks immediately start harassing the skinny newcomer as he introduces himself. They intimidate him into stripping his shirt while he nervously apologizes. The interview kicks off with Coach Andre, who bluntly criticizes his own fighter. He shows zero sympathy, openly trashing his student without restraint. Andre recounts how he became a trainer 8 years earlier to chase a classic boxing philosophy. He aspired to model himself after someone like Gene. Back then, his gym emphasized relentless dedication. That changed when a Mohawk-wearing oddball walked in, looking ridiculous yet packing terrifying punching power. Victor's explosive strength impressed Andre, who introduced himself as head coach and aimed to push him toward a world title shot. Victor burned with excitement at the opportunity. For Andre, however, it would become his greatest regret. Trouble began when he simply asked the guy to tidy up. Victor proudly declared his fixation on Mohawks. Andre quickly realized he was dealing with a gifted but foolish talent. He attempted to teach him proper jabs. Victor considered such basics beneath him and refused. Eventually, Andre gave up resisting, even promising to grant any wish if Victor became champion. The day of Victor's professional debut arrived. He did nothing but wildly swing hooks without strategy. That recklessness left him exposed, and he paid with heavy blows to the face. Andre believed relying on a single move was a foolish tactic. Yet in the 4th round, something unexpected occurred. His opponent grew overly confident. Then he suddenly lost his footing. Crushing punch followed, resulting in a complete knockout. It marked the Giants' first win. Andre knew luck played a major role and secretly hoped the next rival would humble him. Instead, Victor floored that opponent as well. The same fortunate strike repeated, finishing fighter after fighter. Andre struggled to make sense of it, despite Victor's undeniably monstrous power. It seemed absurd that one repetitive move kept earning victories. Eventually, it earned him a shot at the Cruiserweight World Champion. By then, Mohawk Man had amassed a loyal fan base. Before stepping into the ring, Victor warned Andre he'd force him to adopt a mohawk after winning. In that moment, Andre felt his fate was sealed. Bruce Lee once spoke about mastering one move, and Mohawk Man embodies that idea, spamming a single attack all the way to title contention. Then came his showdown with Gilbert Einstein. Even commentator Bob Norris pointed out the wild boxer's glaring lack of refinement. Still, the fact remains that he kept winning every bout. Victor became the first champion to defy boxing norms and triumph regardless. The match starts with Einstein delivering calculated, physics-like punches, analyzing and dominating Victor methodically. It feels like a clueless brute facing a muscular genius. Victor is knocked to the canvas. Strangely, Andre actually cheers at the sight. Mohawk Man recognizes he's confronting a true boxing mastermind. Fueled by sheer anger, he rises once more with renewed strength. He endures 12 rounds of relentless punishment. At the end, he's battered beyond recognition. While Andre fumes that flashiness keeps defeating smarter fighters, he openly roots for Einstein instead. Einstein fires off punches with effortless dominance. Victor fights back, but his efforts prove futile. Genius pauses briefly before unleashing his signature calculated blow. In spectacular fashion, Victor is dropped yet again. Spectators assume it's finally over. Einstein urges him to admit the vast gap between their abilities. Such words only ignite Mohawk Man's fighting spirit. Even his parents once wore mohawks. He's an empty-headed brute, a stubborn beast who refuses to stay down. Victor tells Einstein he has no concern for the future the way intellectuals do. He's mocked as a one-brain-celled creature. Einstein moves in to end both his career and the match decisively. Yet fate intervenes when even the great Einstein loses his footing. He is completely overwhelmed by Victor's fury. The bout concludes with Victor standing victorious. Andre's destiny was decided the moment a new cruiserweight champion emerged. That's the story behind it all, and Andre insists that the key to Victor's rise is nothing but outrageous natural fortune, claiming luck alone carried him to the top. To him, the very presence of Victor's followers disgraces the sport of boxing. Tommy is starstruck, thrilled not just by the interview but by the upcoming clash with Victor. His trainer reminds everyone that Yu's preparation is ultimately meant for Aaron. The coach firmly believes the so-called lucky idiot cannot possibly triumph again. Mohawk Man storms in, completely disregarding the ongoing interview. His sole focus is on undergoing a unique training session. Tommy is utterly confused about what's happening, yet he becomes hyped when Victor delivers his dramatic speech about becoming Earth's strongest being. All he ever wanted was to wear his mohawk proudly as a true man. His strategy was straightforward: beat the biggest and toughest opponents and grow stronger himself. So he ventured into the wilderness and battled wild boars, bulls, and even kangaroos. Whatever fierce creature existed, he challenged it. The ultimate test came against a massive bear, turning into a dramatic duel between man and animal. Sadly for the bear, it slipped at a crucial moment and met its downfall. Victor claimed the title of the strongest. A new ambition suddenly struck him. He reasoned that ancient dinosaurs were once the mightiest beings, but he questioned how such powerful creatures could have vanished. Eccentric cruiserweight discovered his answer within the laws of nature. His focus shifted toward crafting the ultimate punch. He barely acknowledges you, believing your strength pales beside the champion's fist. Thus begins the bizarre training saga, centered entirely on flashy techniques with outrageous names. He scales Mount Everest to forge a mountain punch. He dives into tornadoes to master a storm punch. He even strikes molten lava to create a magma punch. He challenges the sea itself to perfect a tsunami punch. Even Andre ends up praying for divine intervention to halt this madness. He practically begs the gods to smite Victor with a lightning bolt, and lightning indeed crashes down upon Victor, prompting brief celebration. Andre thinks he's finally been spared, but like a lottery winner defying odds, Mohawk Man survives untouched. He becomes one of the rare individuals to live through a lightning strike. Meanwhile, you seem plagued by terrible luck. Even something as simple as opening a can goes wrong. Back at Lyon's boxing club, head trainer Arnold feels uneasy about Victor. After all, Yu's next rival appears to be blessed by fortune itself. Arnold voices his worries to Kay about the approaching match. Narrative returns to Victor's absurd training journey. He is now smashing through Antarctic ice with his bare fists. Arnold advises preparing carefully, given they are facing an unconventional fighter. Meanwhile, Victor trains like a character from an anime, inventing an iron punch inside a construction cavern. Continuing the discussion, Arnold reiterates his concern that their foe's luck is dangerously real. It's obvious when even worn shoelaces keep snapping unexpectedly. This phenomenon makes Arnold increasingly anxious as signs of bad fortune mount. Mohawk Man refines his speed with a rapid-fire Gatling punch. Arnold suggests focusing on points, since chasing a knockout might backfire disastrously. He counters that even minimizing risk cannot eliminate the chance of failure. Once again, a ceiling bulb bursts and crashes down, barely missing you, adding to Arnold's growing list of fears. At church, Andre prays desperately for science to prevail. Tommy asks for a raise and to grow taller, the poor kid burdened with both problems. Mohawk Man casually contemplates things in his usual outrageous manner. He anoints his fist with holy water, thus empowering a sacred punch, the man now possessing more techniques than imaginable. He stresses that fate cannot be altered, and the same applies to you. He refuses to even consider the possibility of defeat. At last, the day of the showdown arrives. Two renowned fighters prepare to clash and carve their names into history. On one side stands you, the unstoppable contender chasing titles across 8 divisions. Opposite you is the reigning cruiserweight champion, leaving everyone uncertain of the outcome. Bob Norris confidently predicts victory for our guy, citing the vast difference in skill. The odds heavily favor you over Mohawk Man, yet he remains indifferent, focused solely on crushing sharp-haired opponents with droopy eyes. Andre urges him to rise as the strongest on Earth. Victor bellows like a savage beast, igniting cheers and excitement from the audience. Even Tommy has become a devoted fan of the Mohawk. Aaron watches the spectacle like the rest of the world. The bell rings and both fighters charge straight at one another. Strangely, Yu slips the instant the match begins, leaving both Andre and Kay stunned. Victor's history of impossible feats makes even absurd odds seem manageable for him. He unleashes a devastating blow that sends our hero flying. The entire globe watches in disbelief as the referee declares Victor the winner. Yet this shocking twist turns out to be nothing more than a narrative prank, merely transforming the story into the Mohawk. Afterward, Victor becomes an unstoppable phenomenon, hailed as the strongest boxer alive. He even eclipses Aaron in fame, all thanks to the unbelievable might of his signature hairstyle. During interviews, he boldly proclaims himself the strongest fighter in the universe. The crowd erupts in support of their Mohawked hero. Soon enough, he is even urged to run for president. Andre watches in utter disbelief at the surreal events unfolding. Everything favors the champion, with people even overlooking his Russian nationality. Riding his popularity, he is eventually elected president. At this stage, you may wonder whether this is satire, as things spiral wildly. He even ushers in an era where martial artists wage wars to secure global peace. The world is unified through the fists of a single man, the supreme ruler of the planet, Viktor Grigorievich. He enforces a policy mandating the Mohawk hairstyle. Catastrophe strikes when extraterrestrials invade Earth. Victor boards a rocket himself and blasts into space to battle the aliens. All of these grand events exist solely within his imagination. The reigning cruiserweight champion had already been rendered unconscious. To briefly summarize the chaos before that absurd dream sequence, when Yu lost his footing, he recalled Ryu's devastating recoil strike and mimicked the technique. Yu unleashed a crushing blow that sent the champion flying, ending the match in just a single second. For Andre, it was likely the happiest moment he had ever experienced. The result stunned absolutely no one. Not even the announcers were taken aback. Victor's boxing journey concluded right there in the ring, and he finally accepted that he had been defeated. His coach wasted no time roasting him relentlessly. He even mocked him for starring in the shortest fight on record. Still, both Victor and his trainer agreed on one thing. It had been enjoyable, and that was enough for him. Victor extends his hand toward you. You shake it without hesitation. The former champion stares in disbelief, astonished that such a small hand delivered such catastrophic force. Noticing your inner conflict about boxing, Victor gently suggests you walk away from the sport. Kay, ever persistent, steps in immediately. He labels Victor a sore loser, unwilling to let anything derail his scheme. And that marked the conclusion of the cruiserweight title bout, who had now toppled 4 world champions at the peak of their divisions. Peter argues that Victor's success involved more than luck, pointing to his resilience and defensive skill. Credit must also go to his coach, Andre, who molded his fighter into a near-mechanical powerhouse. Had Victor been more disciplined, he might have possessed the strength to rival Aaron. Instead, he fell to Kay's latest prodigy. Now the ultimate clash between 2 boxing titans looms ahead. Coach K is visibly exhilarated, having waited years for this opportunity. The legendary Aaron watches the recent fight unfold. He announces plans for a press conference. At home, he is a devoted father who treasures his children. The next day, Aaron delivers a speech that stuns the boxing community. He openly declares his retirement, refusing to remain a pawn for the aging mentor who trained him. Kay is blindsided by this revelation. Aaron's statement shakes the entire boxing world, yet he calmly insists there is nothing left for him to achieve. He refuses to become a mere spectacle for public entertainment. He accepts the confrontation and begins plotting around the champion's vulnerabilities. He is relentless in proving Yu's superiority. When Bob Norris grasped the extent of Kay's obsession, he distanced himself from boxing altogether. Sport had lost all meaning to him. Jason Freddy experienced the same fate, as Kay's trainees often evolved into monsters before quitting. Kay then traveled across the globe, seeking his fifth disciple. Talent alone was insufficient for him. He wanted something beyond human limits, something surpassing even his previous champions. His relentless pursuit of a superhuman specimen never ceased. And at his lowest point of hope, he noticed his own driver, Aaron. The man possessed a broad frame and extraordinary physique. He felt compelled to test his potential in boxing. Yet, like you once did, Aaron claimed he disliked striking others. Traffic forced them to change their route. Soon after, Aaron told Kay to stay in the car and contact the authorities. He stepped out without hesitation to rescue a woman threatened by a criminal. Kay watched eagerly, curious to see what would unfold. The attacker refused to release her, even after Aaron warned him multiple times. Enraged, the criminal stabbed the woman in the thigh. Confronting a knife-wielding man is no simple matter. Kay saw this as the perfect test of Aaron's physical strength. The criminal lunged to stab him, but to his disbelief, the blade failed to pierce Aaron's body. He noticed his muscles bulging beneath his clothes. This was the extraordinary potential he had been searching for. Aaron calmly told the bald man to back down, unwilling to cause harm even after being wounded. Ultimately, Aaron hurled the attacker into a wall. The sickening crack of a skull echoed through the scene. He had unintentionally killed the man, and Kay found the outcome thrilling. Police soon arrived to assess the situation. They were astonished that a single punch inflicted such devastation. Before they appeared, Aaron apologized to Kay. Kay intervened to shield him, unwilling to let him face consequences. He staged the scene to appear as though Aaron had been attacked. By now, it is clear the old coach is dangerously unhinged. Kay tempted him with the promise of discovering his true purpose. Ultimately, no charges were filed as it was ruled self-defense. Back at Lyon's boxing gym, Aaron dismantled seasoned fighters. Despite it being his first time inside a ring, Kay sought to unleash his full destructive capacity. Suddenly, one of Kay's former trainees returned, seeking revenge, unaware he was merely a pawn in Kay's experiment, dismissed as insignificant. Kay promised reinstatement only if he could defeat the newcomer. Fueled by pride, he stepped into the ring oblivious to the consequences. Frederick Jason, once a 4-division champion, had been Kay's fourth prodigy. Jason embodied terror itself, channeling psychological intimidation into brute strength. Yet his madness barred him from becoming the absolute best. The match begins, and Aaron is immediately assaulted by a barrage of vicious blows. He stands firm like armored steel, while Jason exhausts himself. The towering figure instills fear into the former champion, looming above him while calmly whispering reassurance. Aaron readies his counterattack. Jason had once been lured by Kay's promise of a new world. Now he was reduced to a disposable tool. Aaron's fist finally connects, sending Jason to the hospital, as Kay implants the concept of absolute dominance into Aaron's mind. Aaron rose as a monstrous force, claiming the heavyweight world title. Aaron wakes in the middle of the night, instinctively preparing for his usual boxing routine. Then it hits him that he has already stepped away from the sport. Freed from that weight, he chooses to lie back down and rest. The relief feels pleasant, yet it unsettles him enough to keep him awake. Unable to sleep, he spends hours training his stamina just like you do. During his morning run, people greet the former champion with admiration. Meanwhile, you continue training alone in isolation. After finishing his sprint, he feels refreshed and convinces himself he is finally liberated. Later, he sits down to share a meal with his family. Even as a world champion, he cannot escape being told to eat his vegetables at home. At the same time, Yu stares at a bowl of cat food, noticing his beloved pet refuses to eat for some unknown reason. Aaron takes his daughter to spend the day at an amusement park, yet he feels a pang of guilt for enjoying such simple happiness. The focus shifts to Kay, who has prepared an enormous punching bag for your training, knowing a beast awaits. Aaron's wife gently comforts him, reminding him of the strengths that define him, while Yu relentlessly destroys the punching bag from every direction. The big man tastes joy, whereas our fighter has bulked up to his peak form. Looks like he has been fueled by pure muscle-enhancing madness. Kay understands he barely needs to push his other monster back into action. Because on one decisive evening, broken Carmen appears, pleading with his family. Through tears, she claims Kay engineered her downfall, and that even the law cannot protect them. The man they face would answer any resistance with even greater brutality. She explains shakily. Carmen begs the heavyweight champion to return for one last bout to save Yu's life. She hopes a single defeat will free him from being Kay's puppet. Meanwhile, your situation continues to deteriorate, as your cat begins vomiting blood, signaling worsening health. After hearing Carmen, it is Aaron's wife who urges him to step back into the ring to save someone. She believes there are lives beyond their own worth protecting, and insists he must claim victory at any cost. With renewed resolve, Eren prepares for one final battle. The following morning, the world erupts in chaos. News spreads that the heavyweight champion is returning. This fight will determine the greatest boxer in history. For preparation, the giant turns to a new coach who seems near retirement. Coach bluntly warns him the coming fight will be brutal. Meanwhile, a police officer foolishly investigates K's facility. Upon entering, he is stunned. Witnesses you dodging real cannonballs from every angle, enduring lethal training to survive Eren's devastating power. In Eren's camp, his coach explains that sparring partners must wear bomb suits. Without such protection, they would not survive. Facing him is like standing before a walking nuclear weapon. As time moves forward, both warriors push themselves relentlessly toward perfection. You manage to save your cat by taking it to the veterinarian. Yet its advanced age means its remaining time is limited. Eren is supported by his loving family cheering him on. At last, the day of the showdown arrives. His long preparations are finally complete. He reminds you of the first lesson he ever taught about boxing. You must dodge with instinctive precision, because a single clean hit could mean death inside that ring. His only order is to finish the champion before he can land a decisive blow. Instead of discussing tactics, Yu asks K to care for his cat if he falls. He agrees, and they step toward the arena. The crowd's roar is thunderous for this once-in-a-lifetime clash. The world watches the two strongest fighters, with Eren determined to crush K's ambitions. Battle to crown the ultimate monster begins. The champion senses something hollow in the emptiness within his opponent's gaze. Wishes for him to live as a normal human being. He takes on the role of a savior, charging forward the instant the bell rings. Yu immediately begins weaving and dodging, charging the same devastating punch that felled champions before. But it barely shakes the unmovable wall before him. He retreats before a counter can land. Speed allows him to survive the champion's fury, so fast that spectators can hardly follow the exchange. They had warned you to unleash everything, as Eren's physical advantages far surpass mere training. The champion's coach offered identical advice, stressing Yu's terrifying reflexes and speed. Yu's punches slam into the man's body with little visible effect. The opponent is a towering mass of muscle. Striking him feels like breaking your own hands. His physique alone acts as natural defense. Eren's coach suggests cornering the fight to secure victory. He aggressively drives you backward. K quickly understands their tactic, yet this was exactly what he anticipated. Rather than avoid the corner, you boldly step into it. The crowd is baffled by this risky move limiting escape. Eren believes the next strike will end it, but you suddenly unleash 4 thunderous punches in response, forcing even Eren to recoil. His coach realizes Yu has concealed his true strength all along. Now the Titan unleashes his full power and enters a feral state. The two monsters lock eyes, and the true boxing match finally begins. It starts with a sharp jab to the face. Eren slices through the air with blows, while Yu narrowly avoids the shockwaves, each strike cutting through space itself. He counters swiftly and slips away. Even the referee questions why he is officiating such titans. By the 4th round, Speed clashes violently with raw strength. His new coach is stunned witnessing Eren's full might. Eren seems to control the pace, while Yu keeps firing counters beyond human perception. They trade blows evenly. The champion senses he is gradually closing the distance. This happens because every punch Eren throws sends tremors rippling across the canvas. Yu must factor in the shockwaves and wind pressure with each dodge, and though he has avoided them so far, sustaining that pace is nearly impossible. The tension mounts as the ring turns into a war zone, where one clean hit from Eren means certain doom. Our fighter's body strains beyond its limits, just to avoid being erased by that overwhelming force. He suspects Eren is still restraining himself and longs to see the true monster unleashed. He represents terror and triumph, a figure towering above all rivals. He conquered champions from boxing's golden era and rose as the greatest heavyweight ever, crushing every style and emotion beneath his dominance. Peter recalls asking the legend what boxing truly meant to him. Eren once sought life's meaning, but now views boxing as little more than a spectacle rewarding brutality with fame and fortune. Then, for the first time, the heavyweight king snaps out a razor-sharp punch, tears into Yu's ear, marking the first injury ever suffered by the so-called invincible boxer. As round 4 ends, Peter speaks with Eren's coach about how true geniuses rarely feel superior despite their gifts. Unmatched talent instead isolates them, breeding fear and profound loneliness. The coach urges Eren to stay vigilant because their opponent refuses to fall easily. Kay notices the bloodied ear. Expression remains unreadable. Round 5 begins without pause. Only commentator Bob seems aware of the growing disparity in power. Yu is clearly being overwhelmed. Meanwhile, Eren feels a strange relief in facing someone who understands his solitude. He remembers countless fighters who trained tirelessly for a dream, only to be demolished by him without mercy. He believes you share that emptiness, claiming this is no longer boxing, but a repetition of hollow motions. Those hailed as monsters or geniuses are not blessed, but burdened with a curse. He weakens gradually as more flesh tears from his shoulders. Perfect evasion is no longer possible. Eren wants to free you from Kay's shadow. Suddenly something shifts as the champion stiffens. Blood spills from his mouth in a violent cough. Kay reflects that fear alone could never sway someone raised in emptiness like you. Despite Eren's iron body, Kay had trained you relentlessly to rupture his abdomen. From the start of your career, every session aimed at this very weakness. The accumulated damage is finally surfacing. Kay believes his former prodigy should abandon philosophy and focus on survival. Yu answers with punishing blows that rack Eren's frame. The void in Yu's eyes chills the champion, as if death itself stands before him. Eren coughs more blood, as his once unmatched strength betrays him. Kay had once challenged him about his reluctance to finish opponents. He was fearless by nature, even when violence should inspire terror. Most sins are born from fear of losing something precious. Yet Eren's strength eclipsed fear itself, though hesitation kept him from becoming a complete monster. After defending multiple titles, he confronted Kay about boxing's lack of meaning. Kay argued he had not embraced his rightful place at the top of the food chain. Disgusted by that mindset, Eren left, convinced he was dealing with madness. Kay once thought his dream unattainable since even raw strength had limits, and he nearly gave up, until destiny delivered his ultimate disciple, a being who surpassed ordinary humanity. Eren now feels an unfamiliar void and pain. Death brushes close as agony spreads through him, turning the ring into a kill or be killed arena. He realizes how foolish it was to try saving you. He remembers he is a monster who has taken lives. Memories surface of a girl from the orphanage when he was only 11 and accidentally killed someone. The girl had argued fiercely with him. In pushing her away, he lost control of his strength and ended her life. That tragedy taught him his power was meant to destroy. They later offered him wealth, fame, and status as a new path. He stood like a god among men, basking in applause. Yet even glory could not grant him purpose. Fate reunited him with the woman he once saved, and she gave his life direction. Now he chooses survival over mercy and adopts a classic boxing stance for the first time, abandoning brute reliance for technique. This fight carries life or death stakes, so restraint is impossible. Kay delights in the spectacle, seeing in it the embodiment of absolute dominance. Most fighters rely on skill and strategy beyond sheer strength. The heavyweight giant once needed no technique to conquer all. Now he channels every ounce of ability into true boxing form. From here on, Yu's survival hangs by a thread against a champion fighting like a seasoned professional. Fading these refined strikes becomes nearly impossible. The first jab lands with blinding speed before Yu can react. All he manages is to redirect the force, carefully angling his strike to keep his fist from shattering. It seems absurd, but it is his only path to survival. A faster second punch crashes in, numbing his hand as flesh tears and dodging grows futile. Yu survives another lethal blow by letting it slip between torn muscle. Bob declares they are witnessing a machine built to annihilate. Even his wife cannot recognize this side of him. He exists now solely to endure. The commentator considers halting the fight, until he sees Yu adapting ferociously. Though injured, Yu answers each strike with brutal counters. Instead of stopping it, Bob feels compelled to witness the end. Blood spills freely as the ring becomes a stage for survival. Kay savors the authenticity of this battle, the source of his purpose. Crowd roars in excitement, while Carmen sinks deeper into despair. Now the story shifts to Kay's past, as tragedy seems to follow every character. Kay abandoned boxing for the army, rejecting sport as hollow and seeking real combat. He left his mentor and enlisted. Quickly, he stood out among recruits. He carried out dangerous missions, perfecting the craft of killing. After his first kill, he suppressed any guilt, believing he served justice and peace through duty. During one mission, he saved a boy nicknamed Pumpkinhair. Success marked him as a rising star soldier. The grateful child crafted him a toy and dreamed of following in his footsteps. Kay felt inspired and nurtured that aspiration. The first time he sensed purpose, after numerous operations, he rose to become a leader and elite soldier. Back home, Kay was a family man with a devoted wife and young son waiting for him. He'd been deployed to a brutal combat zone, clashing with hired guns on unforgiving terrain. During that period, he entered an intense state of focus, carving out a safe route so his squad could push forward. Soon after, they came across a teammate lying on the ground, gravely wounded and losing blood fast. With his last strength, the man urged them to escape. Kay instantly grasped the warning and ordered everyone to get down and find protection. They endured the blast, though one member of the unit did not make it. They assessed that a highly skilled mercenary was among the enemy ranks, pushing them to their limits, and he refused to gamble his soldiers' lives for the mission. Determined to prevent further losses, Kay moved ahead on his own. He sprinted forward and forced his way into the building. He detected at least one hostile waiting inside, while another adversary appeared to be preparing an explosive device. Each fighter clung fiercely to the will to stay alive. The explosive detonated at the exact moment Kay stormed through the entrance. By a cruel coincidence, the opponent standing before him was the mercenary known as Pumpkinhair. Flicker of doubt crossed his mind as memories of the boy's radiant smile resurfaced. In the end, Kay squeezed the trigger. That was when fate finally revealed its true face to him. As Kay came back after finishing a mission on his own, his expression carried quiet sorrow, though he acted as if nothing was wrong, stepping back into the rhythm of everyday life. He constantly struggled to reconcile the clash between the two realities he belonged to. One demanded a ruthless kill-or-be-killed mentality. The other existed without such brutality. Leaving the nightmare of war behind, he returned home, yet an emptiness inside him slowly began to consume him. He was finally able to hold his son again, yet he was haunted by the memories of his actions. Kay's psyche fractured further when he jolted awake from a horrifying dream, in which he pulled the trigger on his own child. Cruel reflection of his deeds in combat. He confessed to his wife about the horrific assignment he had been forced to undertake, telling her how he ended the life of the very boy he once rescued. Kay recalls how time seemed to stand still before the bullet tore through the boy's skull, erasing him from existence in an instant. The weight of his words brought tears to his compassionate wife's eyes as she grieved for him. She had always been his unwavering source of warmth and care. Deep down, she feared the day someone would inform her of his death. Kay assured her he would complete just one last operation before settling into a peaceful life. Everything collapsed when, during that final mission, he learned his family had suddenly died. Reckless truck accident at the marketplace had taken their lives. The driver received only probation, since the tragedy was not fully his fault. From that moment on, Kay was never the same. He abducted the driver, ready to torture him mercilessly if he refused to answer. At rock bottom, Kay was prepared to spill anyone's blood. The driver claimed he had been forced to choose between saving them or preserving many others. It was nothing more than a grim moral dilemma. In the end, Kay's loved ones became the price paid to protect strangers. With a gun pressed to his forehead, the driver pleaded and wept for forgiveness, swearing he never meant harm to Kay's family. He begged desperately, wanting to live long enough to attend his daughter's birthday. Kay realized death shows no favoritism, just as it hadn't spared his own family. Without hesitation, he squeezed the trigger, bringing the man's life to a brutal end. The sight echoed the memory of his grandfather's sorrowful face before his last breath. It had been his first encounter with loss and the pain of someone vanishing forever. Kay carried on in the military with a chilling, almost robotic efficiency. Those around him sensed how deeply damaged he truly was. One comrade eventually checked in on his well-being. Kay insisted he was stable and easily passed the psychological screening. He then asked Stallone whether he possessed any purpose in life. Stallone admitted he did not. Returned the question back to him. Kay replied that he had once watched a lamb hunted by a wolf, then saw a ram intervene to save it, only to be slain by the predator instead. He observed the lamb's desperate struggle, curious to see how it would end. On the battlefield, the roar of gunfire no longer stirred anything inside him. An interesting detail about his mental assessment. This calculated madman answered every question flawlessly to engineer the result he desired, proving he had evolved beyond simple insanity. Within Kay's thoughts lay a cemetery filled with the memories of those he cherished. He was a predator clever enough to outwit psychological evaluations. Kay bellowed as a grim understanding dawned on him. He descended into madness, concluding that humanity operates without restraint, where the strong indulge their dominance and the weak are left to perish. Amid chaos where others felt trapped, he alone felt liberated. Throwing aside his helmet, he charged recklessly into combat. Gunfire became irrelevant as he embraced the only creed that resonated with him. Power is seized by ending another's life, and that act defines godlike authority. In his bleak worldview, supremacy was the sole truth. When challenged to a bare-knuckle duel, he accepted with a grin and crushed his rival completely, concluded that true dominance required no weapons, only fists colliding between the strongest beings alive. Stallone ceased to exist. Kay surrendered fully to the chaos in his mind, nurturing an obsession to prove ultimate supremacy. And so we arrive at the present, where this savage bout unfolds before a roaring crowd. Armin can feel the eruption of madness in the air. Aaron's wife desperately begs him to stop. Two fighters from the same mentor now clash like titans, vying for godhood and the authority over life and death. The bell rings. Aaron's coach claims his boxer still holds the edge due to greater blood loss on the opponent's side. He insists defeat is inevitable as the wounds deepen with every round. He understands this signals disaster for his man. He tells him this next round will decide everything because failure awaits afterward. Kay intends to unveil the rise of a new deity before the world. The heavyweight beast battles desperately to stay alive, clinging to thoughts of his beloved family. He endures a barrage of punishing strikes, till a devastating blow pops Yu's left shoulder out of place. With one arm useless and his right hand bleeding internally, the match edges toward its conclusion. Beyond boxing, Aaron once searched for life's purpose, and his wife offered him a simple and direct explanation rather than empty philosophy. Yu's stance falters in the ring as he retreats, unable to control the pace any longer. The decisive hour has arrived, separating survival from death. One stands as a perfected weapon of destruction. The other embodies chilling detachment. They surge forward for the final exchange, Aaron swinging a hook aimed to shatter Yu's skull, while Yu counters with a crushing straight, intended for Aaron's heart. Time seems to slow as their fists near their targets. Aaron's wife declares that life's true beauty lies in loving others. In that fleeting instant, Aaron rediscovers his humanity. At their core, both fighters were once just boys, each burdened by profound loneliness. A thunderous crash echoes as the heavyweight ruler collapses. Arentide has fallen. Kay's ultimate ambition is realized. Spectators around the globe witness the brutal finale. Kay urges their fallen hero to rest after his extraordinary performance. His gaze toward Aaron remains icy and unreadable. The champion is hurried into emergency surgery. His wife waits outside, praying fervently for his survival. As a child in the orphanage, the boy had only one wish. He longed for a family, and now that fragile dream teeters on the brink of loss. Fear overwhelms her as thoughts of death invade her mind. Fortunately, the medical team succeeds in saving the champion, though his condition remains dangerously unstable. His daughter Emily trembles with fear that her father may not survive. She breaks down in tears, leaving her mother no choice but to pull her close and soothe her. Carmen suddenly steps forward, apologizing and taking responsibility for everything. Rather than accuse her, she explains that the bout was extraordinary and that Carmen herself could have been the one lying there instead of Aaron. Just as the punch was about to land on his skull, Aaron faltered and held back at the very last instant. Despite the torment of his past, he decided to cling to his humanity. He rejected the monstrous identity his coach had tried to forge within him, feels immense pride in her husband, and resolves to stay resilient for his sake. Yet even with brave words, fear overwhelms her, and the thought of losing him reduces Aaron's wife to tears. That evening, the 9-division champion returned home to his cat, sleeping beside the companion who had never left him. Yu etched his name into boxing history by becoming the quickest fighter to claim titles in 9 divisions with just 22 undefeated bouts. But his journey is not yet finished. Jay publicly declares his comeback and names Fabrizio Santorino as his first challenger. Across the globe, people mourned Aaron's condition. Many hailed the rise of the man who conquered 9 divisions. Aaron had merely been a stepping stone to him, the world witnessing the emergence of a supreme figure shaped by a deranged mentor. At the same time, Jay's sudden return sparks speculation about whether he intends to challenge the champion. Fans are left buzzing with countless unanswered questions. Jay steps up at the press conference to address every doubt. Peter inquires about their strategy moving forward. He responds that dropping back to middleweight would preserve his peak physical condition. However, the true motivation behind the move revolves around Jay. Determined to make a statement, the coach dramatically declares Jay's impending downfall. Commentator Bob had anticipated this outcome all along. Jay and Jay view life through completely opposing philosophies. Bob recalls sharing the ring with Jay years ago. He was a fighter who earned universal respect. Though Jay's record included defeats, he was known for pushing any opponent to their absolute limit. His matches transcended the simple thrill of victory or defeat. He left audiences with a deep sense of fulfillment. Chavo describes him as a truly outstanding technician. Many others hold similar admiration for Jay's craft. He inspired rivals to give everything they had. And now that same man has returned for you, not as a monster like Aaron, but as someone embodying the pure essence of boxing. Climbing steadily through the ranks, he bulldozed his way into a showdown with Fabrizio. On fight night, the world questioned whether the Golden Boy could defeat Santorino and earn a shot at you. Fabrizio also steps back into the spotlight. Sadly for him, his opponent still harbors resentment over past cheating. In retaliation, he drives his head forward in a blatant foul. The referee quickly issues a stern warning. Fabrizio calmly assures him there will be no more dirty tactics, choosing for once to abandon theatrics and focus purely on the sport, even if it draws boos from fans who have yet to forgive the Santorino brothers. Fabrizio remains unfazed by their hostility. His rival pummels him relentlessly, unwilling to forget the ugliness of his past. Despite the tension, Fabrizio quietly asks if the man has released his anger. He has matured into a fighter aware that such characters always existed, and that his former success stemmed from questionable methods. Determined to cleanse his reputation, he wins this bout cleanly and without controversy. Brothers rejoice in their first triumph, achieved through honor. Fabrizio secures the interim middleweight belt, feeling even more satisfied than during his earlier world title wins. The championship clash finally arrives, featuring Jay versus Fabrizio. Though Fabrizio might revert to old tricks under pressure, the Golden Boy remains untroubled. Marco cautions his brother to respect their seasoned opponent's experience. Fabrizio has long awaited a bout like this, holding deep admiration for Jay and hoping to steer him away from facing a monster, seeking dialogue rather than mere victory. The bell rings, and almost instantly Fabrizio scores the first knockdown. Jay appears stunned, unsure of what just occurred, yet he rises at the very last count. Fabrizio understands that Jay is fighting with full intensity. He unleashes a storm of punches to trap Jay against the ropes, narrowly manages to deflect a strike. Jay fights without a fixed style, seamlessly shifting approaches mid-bout and lacking predictable habits. Marco's attempts to analyze him yield no exploitable patterns. Thus, their only viable tactic is to overpower him completely. Santorino brothers know they could never reach the summit alone. By merging their talents, they chase the championship together. Abandoning dirty play to master the sport in full, they prove themselves legitimate contenders, though Jay absorbs a heavy hit. He acknowledges their impressive growth, before countering with a brutal punch to the liver that drops Fabrizio to his knees in agony. He realizes Jay's strength is immense, though still overshadowed by that other monster. Refusing to let Jay meet a fatal end, Fabrizio forces himself up, recalls their very first encounter, back when they were rookies struggling to cover their mother's medical bills, believing boxing meant endless, numbing training to crush opponents. Yet this match feels different. Against Jay, he feels understood and welcomed rather than assaulted. It is as though his opponent's blows carry comfort instead of hostility. Fabrizio will not deliver him to a monster like you. Jay senses his resolve and answers with lightning-fast jabs to convey his own message. Marco cannot grasp how Jay lacks any discernible tendencies. Even genetically gifted fighters show patterns to exploit. Yet Jay offers no such openings. Fabrizio glimpses clarity in Jay's eyes that resolves his doubts. He deliberately surrenders and speaks privately with the referee, their words unheard by the crowd. Not even Kay knows what was said, as the true embodiment of boxing prepares to confront the strongest being alive. Following his victory, Jay declares his intention to challenge Yu. He claims the interim belt by defeating Fabrizio. The world speculates about the outcome of a clash between these two. During an interview with Peter, describe boxing as nothing more than striking and evading, echoing your coach's philosophy. Peter argues that while Kay promotes powerful fighters, they all lack something essential. They are missing the quality of humanity. Kay remains an enigma, and no one understands his fixation on meeting you in them, especially since this beast sends even his trainers to the hospital after sparring sessions. The scene shifts to Aaron's wife. She cries beside him as he remains unconscious. The following day at another press event, he speaks on Yu's behalf, dismissing the legend's comeback as meaningless. He vows the upcoming fight will be the most savage ever witnessed, claiming he has already achieved all other ambitions. His final aim is to demolish Jay purely for personal satisfaction. After that chilling declaration, the microphone is handed to Jay, who calmly states his unwavering determination to win at any cost. Jay's trainer believes he has lost his mind for challenging you straight out of retirement, leaving everyone puzzled. Jay speaks of cosmic emptiness and profound loneliness, questioning the purpose of existence itself. Yu's small furry companion breathes its last and quietly passes into death. The boy has long wondered whether his life holds meaning beyond mere survival. The shadows of his history trail behind him wherever he goes. The basement was the only place the boy had ever called home. Within that dim and suffocating cell, a powerless woman brought a child into the world. He felt the baby's fragile arms wrap around her. People enter this world destined to play countless different parts and to endure waves of sorrow. Happiness and hopelessness intertwined as life and death trailed every human. The boy's fate was no exception. Whenever the door creaked open, he saw a monster standing there, a living embodiment of the terror that haunted his sleep. In that basement, his father beat and mistreated him relentlessly. Over time, he lost the ability to express any emotion. His father vented his rage on the child without mercy, as the boy silently wished for death. Even such agony failed to kill him, yet he had already stopped truly living and no longer shed tears. Numbness consumed him, because suffering was the only reality he understood. With his limited strength, he prepared instant noodles for his mother. She hurled the bowl against the wall, neglecting even her own well-being, quietly cleaned the mess, and reminded her that she needed to eat. Under moldy walls and foul air, he swallowed the same cheap. For 7 long years, the boy remained imprisoned in that cramped basement. And one day, a strange presence entered his world, as if an alien had stepped into the darkness, and that encounter loosened the chains binding him. He climbed upward with determination and laid eyes on the outside world for the very first time. 7 years after his birth, he finally felt open air against his skin. He sensed everything around him and gazed up at the distant stars. A tall girl noticed him and greeted him warmly. Overwhelmed, he stood speechless and unsure how to respond. The unfamiliar presence filled him with anxiety. When she asked his name, he realized he did not even know it. Seeing the scars on his body, she sensed his troubled past and offered to show him around the neighborhood. They encountered an elderly man who handed him candy that tasted odd. Yet he treasured it because he had never tried anything like it before. That was when he understood the world held even sweeter delights. He passed a student overwhelmed while preparing for civil service exams. The student wept from exhaustion. Later, they saw a peculiar man wandering in circles muttering the word where. They awkwardly followed his looping path till they finally arrived somewhere meaningful. The girl adored a mother cat who had recently birthed kittens. She guided him to a spot overlooking the stunning cityscape. She confessed that everyone lives and dies alike, and that she was merely one small piece in a vast system. The reality of existence frightened her. The boy, hardened by misery, could not grasp her fear. To him, the sky looked like an endless cemetery of stars, stirring feelings he had never known. Eventually, he returned to his mother, eagerly declared that he had been outside. At the same time, the girl found herself chased by an old man. He excitedly recounted everything he had seen and felt beyond the basement. In response, his mother struck him, her fear of abandonment surfacing. She tearfully begged him not to leave her. Meanwhile, the girl defended herself with a taser and escaped unharmed. The boy lay beneath a sky on a planet where everyone longed for something more. Such desires were entirely new to him. His only wish now was to step outside again and discover more. He began counting the rhythm of his heartbeat, calculated that his mother slept through roughly 21,000 beats. Using that measure of time, he slipped out once more, all the while counting and replaying memories in his mind. He retraced every route yet could not locate them. Suddenly she grabbed him from behind, thrilled that he had returned. Curious about his actions, she listened as he explained his heartbeat counting. She pressed her ear to his chest, once again guided him through the town. He tasted new varieties of candy, observed people laboring tirelessly to sustain their lives. Playing with the kittens, he felt his sense of self begin to bloom. One afternoon, the girl struggled to climb the stairs. Her health had deteriorated further. He rested in a field while he kept counting his heartbeat. She revealed the devastating truth that her end was near. Spreading tumor forced doctors to remove several organs to prolong her life. Reflected on once believing she was the heroine of her story, only to realize she was as insignificant as grains of sand vanishing from Earth. She questioned the meaning of living and why beings leave children behind. Seeking comfort from him, she noticed that for the first time he stopped counting his heartbeats. The world, however, continued turning. When he came home, his mother had destroyed everything inside. She seized him by the throat and began choking him. And as he neared death, he asked her what his name was. Tears streamed uncontrollably down his face. His mother suddenly realized her actions. She broke down and apologized to her son, and prepared instant noodles once more, so they could share the meal together. Before sleeping, she asked him to tell her about the outside world. The first time, he felt a fragile peace, believing life might finally calm down. The girl had taught him how to draw, and he sketched a picture of a joyful family. The following day, tragedy struck as his mother chose to take her own life. His father was a gangster, and his mother had worked in illegal entertainment. They believed they understood each other, but her betrayal shattered that illusion. Driven insane, the man imprisoned her in the basement, leaving her existence suspended in misery. Boy trembled as he held her lifeless body. The girl had wished deeply for him to experience a normal family, and hoped that someday he might find one. His ruthless father erupted in fury upon seeing his wife dead. In blind rage, he beat the boy until blood covered him, did nothing but unleash his bottled-up rage on the child. That abuse made the boy question from an early age how anyone could find pleasure in hurting others. He truly believed his life was about to end. Yet even as the man meant to be, his father left him battered. The only thing he begged for was a shred of his father's affection. Those words only enraged the man further as he charged in to strike him again. But on that particular day, something inside the boy shifted. He lashed out and cut his father with a blade. Just 7 years old, his perception of the world shattered completely. He chased the light back outside, yet the girl was nowhere to be found. All she left behind was a drawing of her beloved cat. The elderly man who once offered him candy passed away quietly in his sleep. The civil service student later slipped and fell to his death. The boy witnessed every tragedy unfold firsthand. Seeking vengeance against the girl, the man slaughtered the mother cat and her kittens, surrounding the boy with more death. The girl who cherished his sketch eventually breathed her last, and as the body count rose around him, nothing ever seemed to change. Broken and defeated, he slumped beneath a streetlight in despair. That was when he encountered the small furball that would stay by his side for years. Now even that cherished companion is gone. The following morning, Yu appears at the gym looking pale and sleepless. Arnold voices concern about his condition, but Kei dismisses it. Kei believes his creation is in peak form for combat. The day of reckoning has arrived. Golden Boxer waits calmly for the showdown. His coach carefully fixes Yu's hair in preparation. He multitasks by styling his hair while delivering tactical advice. The fighters are summoned to the grand stage for the middleweight world title bout. The all-time undisputed champion faces the legendary Jay. Anticipation fills the arena because this challenger stands apart from the others. Spectators are desperate to know why he chose to confront Yu. Even Jay sits among the crowd for this clash. Jean has also arrived, much to Stella's annoyance. He wants to see whether Yu will consume his emptiness or if he will find redemption. Yudo and his wife share the same fear of the mechanical boxer who crushed every champion before him. Yudo admits he felt genuine terror when facing him. All his hard-earned achievements felt worthless against such an unstoppable force. Yet after each victory, Yu sinks further into darkness. Yudo Taekta hopes the champion can discover a guiding light. The Santorino brothers remain skeptical about how this fight will unfold. They question why Jay would willingly step into the ring with someone so monstrous. Victor, meanwhile, weeps because Yu never appeared to claim his mohawk. Aaron's wife loathes both you and your coach. Still, she watches intently, seeking meaning in Aaron's decision. The boxers finally enter the arena. Fabrizio believes Yu is nearly unbeatable, especially after his superhuman display against Eren. And despite weight differences, he still reigns supreme at middleweight. Every gaze in the stadium fixes on the ring. The bell sounds to signal the start. Strangely, neither fighter makes the first move. The referee even urges them to engage. You ask the Golden Boxer if he understands the source of the world's suffering and the true meaning of existence for a monster like you. He searches for answers in the eyes of the man before him, who stands on the brink of death's definition. You tear apart the canvas and spill Jay's blood across the arena. Barely into the first round, Jay senses the presence of a genuine monster. This battle differs from all others as Jay is plunged into agony, recalling Yu's prior bloodbath. Your only focus is inflicting relentless violence. Coach K watches with visible satisfaction, while spectators fear for Jay's survival. You tread the path of monsters, lamenting how ordinary people struggle to survive before fading away. Jay absorbs the fury behind each of your strikes. To you, life's meaning lies in merciless domination as you batter him. Yu reveals a horrifying side of himself. He grants his opponent no time to recover. The world wonders how Jay can possibly escape this onslaught. Despite the punishment, Jay somehow remains standing. Viewers witness a creature who seems to surpass human limits. Jay endures blow after devastating blow, leaving the crowd confused about his strategy. Coach K deems it the perfect exhibition of power. Even the audience begins to boo the once revered Golden Boxer. Years ago, Bob held the middleweight crown. Yet another debutante once suffered a crushing loss while carrying himself like a champion. They gave dignity to weakness, which infuriated the coach. He wants the world to witness the monster he has forged. No one appears capable of defeating him, given his overwhelming strength. The second round begins with the same merciless assault. Then the third round arrives. Bob cannot predict where this fight is headed. Endurance alone seems futile when you dominated fighters like Fabrizio for 12 rounds straight. His coach questions Jay's intention because nothing he attempts seems effective. As for the lonely boy within, Yu feels crushing sorrow yet continues his rampage. Still, Jay refuses to yield, locking eyes with the embodiment of death across from him. Children at the orphanage watch the fight unfold. Carmen has returned to serve at the orphanage after parting ways with Kay. Kay dismisses it as mere coincidence and insists no one can reach your level. Facing you feels like enduring pure isolation and suffering. That suffering defines your boxing style, a manifestation of the hardships you survive. Commentators struggle to interpret the spectacle. Suddenly, Jay presses forward, shifting into an in-fighter's stance. Carmen notices the misery etched on your face, discusses it quietly with the director. She says he is the strongest boxer she knows, yet that strength leaves no one able to defeat or save him. While the director notes that his opponent is equally formidable, a boy from the same orphanage and the strongest child she has ever seen. Upon returning from retirement, Jay aimed to honor a promise he made to a boy during his travels. Though his time is limited, he wishes to deliver that message before it is too late. He collapses onto his knees after enduring a brutal knockdown. The doctor pleaded with him to stop fighting and abandon boxing altogether. Still, he pushed through training, appearing strong on the surface, even though inside he was dangerously close to death. His trainer warned him not to take this bout, Yet Jay was determined to seek the meaning behind it all, intended to search for that answer in the ring and convey it to you. Jay may have come back in better shape than ever, but until now he had restrained himself, conserving strength for you, something Fabrizio clearly recognized. Now frustration grows because he seems inactive in the fight. Jay is crushed again and dropped for the second time. Somehow he rises once more, gasping for air as blood seeps from every part of him. Even so, Jay presses on to speak to the boy. The fifth round ends with Jay barely surviving another savage assault. His coach recalls his very first professional bout, when he entered the ring despite fractured ribs from the day before. His devotion to boxing remained unmatched even as he faced death against a monster. Despite the punishment, Jay still reveres boxing as a place where souls meet and share their stories. To him, boxing embodies genuine love. The sixth round prepares to unfold. Bob predicts Jay will throw only a single decisive punch before the end. He plans to pour every ounce of strength into that one strike, perhaps the only one you cannot evade. You continue the relentless assault, smashing the golden boxer before the eyes of the world. Jay grows bored, convinced that ultimate power reduces all life to nothingness. Carmen senses the sorrow within you and calls him the loneliest fighter alive. A man who conquered obsession, hard work, determination, and even fortune. He overcame every ideal placed before him. Carmen tried desperately to save him, but was left shattered. While most people lean on others, you had no one and always stood alone. The orphanage director insists that in this moment you is not alone. There is someone here ready to teach him what love means. He endures the hardest trial of his life. His coach clings to the belief that he has a hidden plan. He fights on in hopes of saving K's monster. Round 6 becomes a massacre, and round 7 and 8 blur past. As he falls repeatedly for an ideal few understand, no one truly knows his reason for fighting. He stands again, rising for the boy in the corner. Blood pours from his body, and the crowd watches in horror. By round 11, the spectacle no longer resembles boxing, but something beyond human limits. The final round approaches, and K urges him to finish it without restraint. K's body consumes itself for survival, shedding weight just to remain standing, unsure why he is even here anymore. His coach realizes even his brain has suffered damage. Instead of stopping him, he reminds Jay he came to teach someone about love. Remembering that mission, Jay steps into the final round. One corner embodies darkness. The other symbolizes light. Life and death intertwine. One fighter carries purpose in his fist. The other fights without meaning. The decisive round begins. Agony continues as punch after punch lands. He cuts through pain and emotion searching for love. Harry watches from his television, reflecting on the story of a god who sacrificed himself for sins. The boy struggles to grasp how such a god could exist and harbors countless questions. Wonders why he was born into hell and why no divine force rescued him from suffering. Desperate for answers, he pulls a god in his mind seeking understanding. As he pummels Jay without mercy, Yu's conviction begins to waver in his search for truth. Jay smiles at him like sunlight breaking through clouds. It becomes clear that strength alone cannot defeat loneliness. The world is filled with flawed and selfish people. Many chase material desires without gratitude, while anger and anxiety consume them. Some perish in tragic accidents. Others fall victim to violence. Many lose their lives to disease. Cruelty spares no one, as everyone struggles in their own way. Concluded that humanity ultimately meets failure at the end. Even the author admits that death awaits us all as an unavoidable truth. That is the reality K wants him to witness. Countless stories begin and end the same way. K urges him to give up and surrender. The orphanage director tells Carmen that loneliness makes death feel near. Despite a lifetime of connections, death confronts a person with ultimate solitude. A god would sacrifice everything for love. Jay mirrors that ideal, drenched in blood yet refusing to fall. K grows irritated that Yu prolongs the battle. Golden Boxer, stained crimson, has already embraced his fate. K orders his monster to finish it, but Yu's determination falters and nearly shatters. Golden Boxer finally counters with equal force. To K's shock, he stands firm, rejecting defeat. Instead, you begin to tire and feel the mounting pressure. K attempts to halt the fight through questionable tactics. Yet even the referee stands frozen in disbelief. The entire world witnesses this extraordinary moment. A man who accepted death now fights to protect a boy. Victory was never his original aim. Jay advances with unwavering resolve. Yu tries to push him back, but fear surfaces, revealing a new side of the monster. 10 seconds left. Jay continues forward. He absorbs countless blows, yet refuses to retreat, pressing on until you are cornered. Lonely child who never had a savior feels the warmth of life. Jay slowly extends his fist, gently taps Yu's head, striking him in a way never seen before in boxing. The match concludes as emotion overwhelms the arena. A strange feeling spreads through the crowd as the boy finally cries. Even as the final bell rang and pain racked his body, Jay still reached out to comfort him. When the bout concluded, A spark slowly returned to Yu's gaze. Meanwhile, Jay was taken away on a stretcher, his condition extremely serious. For the first time in his life, the boy sensed he was no longer facing the world by himself. Following the match, Aaron's coach quietly passed away, burdened by guilt over what had happened. He deeply regretted not stopping the fight and began visiting every day without fail. Later, his wife informed Aaron about the funeral arrangements. She resented Yu and the chain of events that tore her away from her loved ones. Still, she chose to shoulder her duties and entrust her hopes to her husband's survival. She vowed to remain by his side until he opened his eyes again. Life for the world champions eventually returned to its usual rhythm. After the championship match, Kay shut down his gym and vanished. Rumors of his death spread, but none were verified. Jay also disappeared from the public eye, leaving people speculating that he might have gone traveling once more. Carmen stayed at the orphanage, determined to ease the sorrow carried by those around her. Many fighters lost their lives in the ring, their journeys ending there. Beneath the dark sky, another boy suffered alone, much like you once did. The older and wiser protagonist stepped forward to help him, gently asked whether the boy was doing okay. Using Jay's comforting words, he reminded him that even in a cruel world, the stars still shine for him. Yu spent his days with Carmen and the orphanage children, bringing the boxer's tale to a graceful close. Yet the story extends beyond Yu's lifetime. The next pivotal showdown features Jay and Ryu meeting again inside the ring. Jay's professional debut ended swiftly, lasting only 2 minutes against a seasoned veteran. He stepped into the arena once more for his second bout. Steele tried to reassure him, but Jay felt strangely calm, sensing something different about this fight. Bell rang and Jay struck first with a sharp, piercing blow. Facing a formidable veteran, only signaled that the road ahead would bring even tougher challengers. Kept relentless pressure, unleashing explosive combinations filled with power, until his opponent collapsed onto the canvas. Typhoon believed this marked the beginning of Jay breaking past his former limits. Jay claimed victory, setting off a cycle where success fueled even greater confidence. Boxing consumed his thoughts so completely that he even imagined matches while showering. Inside the ropes, he became ferocious, overpowering rivals and extending his winning streak. It was the peak of triumph, development, and sheer enjoyment. Yet repeated wins can easily breed arrogance and a fear of eventual defeat. In time, Jay tasted loss, as he lacked divine talent and his body had limits unlike the prodigies. Typhoon advised him that proper rest was essential for true improvement. Meanwhile, Egghead Steele scared the kid by threatening to shave his head if he lost. The higher someone rises, the more painful the fall can feel. After his initial defeat, Steele questioned whether the boy would even return to training. When they reached the gym, he found the boy already immersed in practice. He was hammering the heavy bag with unwavering intensity. Typhoon understood that Jay's love for boxing drove him, and even defeat could not halt his progress. Though slower than natural geniuses, he possessed limitless potential for steady growth that they did not. The scene shifts to Siha, who yawns upon seeing Jay, a future challenger for his belt. Jay eagerly anticipated his upcoming title opportunity. He battled numerous skilled professionals, experiencing both wins and losses to earn his shot. He and his coach exchanged loud words of encouragement. Steele, however, secretly feared Jay might be crushed in the opening round. Siha was notoriously lazy, often arriving late to his own training sessions. He saw little excitement in fighting someone like Jay, though his coach warned him to stay alert. Their clash ended almost instantly, as Siha defeated him effortlessly without full gear. He became the youngest junior welterweight champion, the same age as Yu, already boasting 9 title defenses. Though qualified for the World Pro League, he preferred to dominate local competitions. They observed a bout between him and The Rock, the very boxer who had faced Jay in his first professional match. Rock landed a fierce straight that drove him into the corner, then followed up with a barrage that seemed ready to shatter him. Siha slipped away, yet to Jay it looked as though Rock controlled the fight throughout. In reality, Rock felt defeated inside, as if he already knew the outcome. The second round started and concluded in the blink of an eye. Unlike the first, Siha analyzed the data he gathered and countered perfectly in round 2. Every opponent's opening round against him followed a similar pattern. No matter their effort, none could truly reach him during that initial exchange. Jay failed to overcome him in the first round. Defeat seemed inevitable. They tried devising tactics, but this time no clear plan existed. Even his coach felt lost. Jay lacked knockout power and had no reliable finishing move. His rival was practically a nightmare for fighters using classic techniques. Since habits form from repeated techniques, Siha could read and adapt to them with mechanical accuracy. Jay's refined skills might backfire, so his coach ordered him to focus on fundamentals while he searched for answers. In shadowboxing, Jay imagined facing the champion but found no clear opening. He had mastered 4 fundamental movements over years of practice. Those tools seemed insufficient to halt his rival. When he felt cornered, Rock approached and caught up with him. Jay realized his anxiety stemmed from facing the champion. Doubt overwhelmed him, as he feared all his dedication might prove meaningless. Rock saw through him and confessed that his own loss came from doubting his preparation. He believed he had betrayed his training by not pushing himself further and leaving regrets behind. Before departing, Rock asked about Jay's final evasions in their debut bout. Jay explained that his body reacted instinctively, without conscious thought. It wasn't chance that shaped the result, but the countless hours he had invested. Rock urged him to pour everything he had into the next fight. His fighting spirit flared up once more. Jay hurried back to his coach, believing he had discovered the answer. However, his coach had another approach in mind. He had recruited additional help to prepare Jay. At the gym entrance, Jay found Yudo and Misaki waiting. Jay and Yudo even mirrored each other's mannerisms as they exchanged greetings. Overconfident, Siha skipped proper training and neglected his condition, certain of an easy win. After completing sessions with the world champion, 2 grueling months left Jay drained, but the moment to prove himself had arrived. Jay's coach was astonished by the champion's remarkable physique. Even without intense effort, the boxer maintained a flawless build. When Jay removed his shirt, defined muscles stood out strikingly, drawing attention as Siha offered a handshake in anticipation of a worthy fight. In that brief contact, Siha sensed several things about him. The long-awaited match had finally begun. They had reached this stage through sheer persistence and effort. Yet from the moment they touched gloves, Siha had already started adjusting. Siha felt unchallenged and aimed to pursue greater competition on the global stage after this bout. The arena tightens as the 2 most dominant fighters stand opposite each other. Siha is confident he will win, yet he remains aware of the ceiling he cannot surpass. He understands that against monsters like Yudo, defeat would be inevitable. He is fully conscious of where he ranks in the grand order. True excitement only stirred in him when he met an opponent whose movements defied prediction. He is curious about what surprises Jay will unveil tonight. Bell rings and Jay shocks everyone with a lightning-fast knockdown. Siha's coach stares in disbelief at the challenger's explosive improvement. Still, the champion refuses to fall so easily and rises again. Round 2 opens with Jay attempting to replicate his earlier strike. This time, however, his rival anticipates it. Yet in the final instant, he is caught off guard. Jay had endured intense sessions with Yudo to cultivate a new level of effort. Facing the hardest worker alive, Jay pushed himself relentlessly to close the gap with the world champion. By the second week, he modified his routine, though he still looked up to Yudo's mastery. Week 3 brought no relief, as he still lagged behind Yudo's pace. He discovered that unwavering focus and discipline were essential, ensuring no motion in training was wasted. The retired champion chased growth with desperate intensity despite having no rival left to face. Week 5, his body felt unbearably heavy. Genuine fear crept in as exhaustion weighed him down. He nearly collapsed under the brutal regimen Misaki had designed. His entire world narrowed to the punching bag before him. He longed to reach the same strength his father once possessed. In that instant, he shattered his own limits and transformed into a formidable fight. Siha now faces perhaps his toughest trial against this unyielding opponent. Drained but determined, Jay lands a devastating blow that drops the champion. One more knockdown stands between Jay and the title. At 9 years old, the boy had found life painfully dull. Now he confronts a rival who finally challenges him in earnest. Yudo and Misaki watch intently from the sidelines. Short training cannot change everything. Jay's improvement is beginning to show. Growth demands more than effort. It requires surrendering comfort in pursuit of greatness. It means letting relationships fade until nothing remains but ambition. All sacrifices compress into a single moment that yields extraordinary results. Crowd erupts as Jay overwhelms the champion with relentless punches. The opening round is still underway, and this is his sole opportunity to prevail. Unleashes a storm of attacks without pause. Then everything shifts as Siha fully adapts and answers hard work with raw talent. The genius champion fires a crushing strike just before the round closes. Jay, the situation grows dire despite having scored 2 knockdowns. Siha rises, prepared to inflict severe punishment in the rounds ahead. Strangely, Siha feels neither boredom nor thrill in this clash. Misaki and Yudo anxiously speculate about the outcome. The champion wonders what hidden weapon Jay might still reveal. Typhoon warns that he will throw in the towel if Jay fails to finish it next round. As the action resumes, Siha crushes Jay's momentum. Brutal punch sends Jay crashing to the canvas. Yet Siha senses he absorbed a fierce counter during the exchange. Realizes Jay intends to endure blows while relentlessly striking back. The bout turns into a brutal exchange where damage flows both ways. Jay is forcing a contest of stamina. Counterpunches are deadly because they freeze the body before retaliation is possible. That is why Jay conditioned himself to withstand such punishment. After bulking up through relentless training, he drags the champion into a clash of strength versus instinct. Even so, each hit he absorbs inflicts terrible harm. Steps begin to falter as the accumulated damage mounts, leaving no room for hesitation. Noticing his resilience, Siha shifts his aim toward the liver, striking the body's most vulnerable spot and flooding him with agony. In that split second, Jay fires back with a counter that floors the champion, both men barely standing. Seizing the moment, Jay presses forward to overwhelm Siha. Each fighter responds perfectly to the other's moves, yet a punishing strike from the champion drops Jay once more. Memory of Ryu suddenly surfaces in his mind. It recalls the rare match where he truly struggled. An opponent who fought without fixed form or pattern. Siha mirrors Ryu's fluid dodge as he slips past Steel's attack. Though standing again, Jay is battered and nearly spent. Siha senses his rival has little left to give. He drives him around the ring mercilessly, determined to close the match for good. But the bell interrupts just before he can finish. Siha advises surrender, while the blonde boy appears shaken by the ordeal. Typhoon urges him to stop, yet Jay refuses to yield. The third round starts with Siha easily controlling the sluggish Jay, who can now only endure blows. His coach fears he has lost his sanity. Still, Jay demands one more round. Siha taunts him while pummeling him, speaking about life's dull realities. There are no comic book heroes or villains. Miracles belong to fiction, and most people are shaped by their circumstances. Jay retaliates and strikes, surprising Siha, who chooses not to evade. In truth, the champion is also worn down, allowing Jay to connect. Both are barely standing as the decisive exchange looms. Jay has endured countless trials, and thus can withstand immense pain. His rival is a prodigy, who relies on rapid-fire combinations. Yet exhaustion creeps in, giving Jay the opening to throw an uppercut. Siha narrowly slips past the rising punch, and answers with Ryu's signature recall strike. Still, it fails to finish Jay. Jay counters once more, and crushes Siha with a decisive blow. Both collapse simultaneously onto the canvas. It results in a dramatic double knockdown. Referee begins the count aloud. Jay rises first and steadies himself. The arena explodes as he secures victory. A new national champion is crowned. Siha tastes defeat for the very first time, expected to fall only to greater talent, but reality proved otherwise. One stepped into the ring for amusement. The other fought to transcend himself. There is no doubt Jay earned this triumph as he captures the junior welterweight crown. The story then shifts to a long-awaited familiar face. Ryu has finally been released after serving his time. He goes back to his former boss and declares he is done working for criminals. Suddenly, he feels lightheaded when they slip something into his food. Even so, Ryu remains as lethal as ever and has no hesitation in cutting them down. The whole gang charges him at once, only to be crushed without mercy. After beating them down and putting them in their place, he stands ready to eliminate anyone else who dares oppose him. Ryu reflects on when exactly his life began to fall apart. He cannot tell whether it began with humiliation, defeat, or violence, but at his lowest point, Ryu had become insignificant. That was until Josh found him collapsed outside his bar. Starving and desperate, he begged for food before passing out. Josh fed him and realized they were the same age. He even suggested that Ryu work at the bar. Ryu declined, saying that kind of job did not suit him. His eyes drifted to Josh's trophies, and he recognized him as a boxer. Out of curiosity, Ryu asked about Josh's achievements in professional boxing. Josh admitted he only shined locally, because the global stage was far more brutal. Something ignited within Ryu, and he demanded a fight. Annoyed, Josh dragged him into an alley to settle it. Ryu attacked recklessly yet swiftly. Josh dodged while still overwhelming him. By chance, Jin's coach happened to witness Ryu's display. Noticed Ryu's impeccable timing and sharp reflexes, yet his movements appeared strangely unorthodox. The irregularity stemmed from a lingering leg injury. Because of that flaw, Josh eventually knocked him down hard. Josh told him he used to be far better than what he showed now. Memory of his tense talk with Kay resurfaced. Josh once said Korea had two natural geniuses stronger than him, who never even trained in boxing. He left the white-haired delinquent sprawled in the gutter. Jin stood over him and asked what he truly saw. In response, he rudely told him to get lost. Though he looked pitiful on the pavement, Peter still invited him to visit if he wished to turn pro. Wherever he wanders, memories of Jay continue to haunt Ryu. Just the sight of you unsettles him deeply. Josh's words constantly remind him of his shortcomings. Even Kay had dismissed him as worthless. All of it left him more vulnerable than ever. Peter later tells Jin about the intriguing young man he encountered. Ryu begins walking the path Peter laid out, recalling Yu's clash with Jay when time seemed to stop. Eventually, Ryu steps into the gym, declares his intention to become a professional boxer. Peter demands sincerity from the depths of his heart. Ryu answers with genuine resolve. Still, training under a world-class coach would not come free of charge. Peter offers a reduced fee if Ryu works at a nearby restaurant. He is thrown out to learn the meaning of honest labor. The following day, he returns to Josh's bar and sincerely asks for a position in the kitchen. Josh insists that he apologize first. Ryu had never imagined bowing his head to anyone. Yet he swallows his pride and finally utters an apology. Embarrassment mixes with relief as he experiences growth for the first time. Ryu begins by washing dishes immediately. Secretly, however, he plans to defeat Josh in a rematch. He cuts his hair short for a fresh start. Determined to improve himself, he arrives at the gym again. Meets Gene properly for the first time, the man who once faced the best fighters worldwide. Ryu pays his gym fees without hesitation and begins his first lesson under Peter's guidance. He dislikes being corrected, since he believes he already knows the basics. He wants real combat experience, but Peter tells him he understands nothing about true boxing. Ryu throws a 1-2 combination that looks mediocre at best. Peter observes that his leg falters with each strike, which is critical for his style. Frustrated, Ryu challenges Gene directly. Old words alone are not enough to secure a match with him. Instead, Peter pairs him with an amateur professional to test him. Confident in his stance, Ryu believes victory is certain. Once the bout starts, his natural talent becomes obvious. Despite his potential, the amateur forces him backward. Peter halts the fight before the round can finish. Furious, Ryu's ego cannot accept losing to someone not even fully professional. He blurts out that Kei once acknowledged him as a genius. After a brief silence, Gene agrees to fight him. Gene handicaps himself by limiting one arm and sets easy conditions for Ryu. Match ends almost instantly. Ryu realizes Gene spared him to demonstrate the vast gap in skill. Within seconds, he suffers unbearable pain before losing consciousness. Upon waking, Peter tells him bluntly that his so-called genius means nothing if he keeps training the old way. After some time, Ryu regains confidence and secures a victory. Back in school days, he excelled in athletics. Ryu was versatile and especially gifted in reaction-based sports, even among prodigies. Facing Larry, Ryu resolves to abandon his former self. Stamina becomes his primary weapon, and he focuses on preserving it. In professional bouts, he dominates opponents, though his techniques remain flawed on the global stage. Peter reprimands him and reminds him of those weaknesses. They share a meal together, as the idea of a peaceful life takes root. Ryu fulfills his duties and builds healthier relationships. He starts to believe an ordinary life suits him, since he cannot surpass the world's monsters. It seems evident he will never claim a world title, but he accepts that reality and embraces being average. Next day, Peter brings surprising news. As the top-ranked fighter in the country, Ryu is ready for the world stage, and his first rival will be Korea's boxing king, Jae. Unexpectedly, he asks Josh to help train him, even offering a sincere apology. Later, he stands on the grand stage alongside Typhoon and Jae, discovering that Jae has been spending time at his former gym. He originally intended to apologize to him. Jae's expression remained completely unchanged. His temperament was the same as ever, and he even refused to accept Ryu's handshake. A heavy pressure filled Ryu's chest. He could not bear the thought of losing to that boy. The long-awaited day arrived, as both fighters stepped onto the grand stage to roaring cheers. They locked eyes in silence. Peter advised Ryu to focus on scoring points, rather than chasing a knockout against someone so durable. Yet Ryu already understood that resilience from first-hand experience. He provoked Jae, and was instantly smashed in the face for his boldness. That opening blow sent him crashing to the canvas. Shock of the hit made him feel it was impossible to overcome this man. He sensed Jae staring down at him with superiority. The fight pressed on as Jae unleashed an endless stream of punches. Ryu endured the worst beating of his career, while his own strikes seemed useless. Jae's body felt like iron, and his stamina was overwhelming. The man Ryu once belittled now completely outclassed him. The first round closed with Jae firmly in control. Even so, he believed Ryu had not revealed everything yet. Peter urged Ryu to endure and exhaust Jae, because longer rounds meant better odds. The cautious method clashed with Ryu's nature. He refused to win that way, and aimed to finish things in the next round. As round 2 began, Jae felt an ominous chill. Ryu's punch landed with blistering speed. He tried to crush Jae's spirit by trapping him with heavy combinations. It mirrored the memory of their first encounter. Jae quickly identified the weakness in Ryu's injured leg. Even so, he was caught by a sudden uppercut. Images of their training flashed as Jae forced him backward and drove the air from his lungs. Ryu fell flat onto the mat. Once again, he felt defeating Korea's champion was impossible. Refusing to accept defeat, he rose to face reality. He launched a desperate charge at the champion, only to be met with a punch that nearly knocked him senseless. Jae pulled further ahead as the bout seemed decided. His coach shouted at him to stand up, yet despair had nearly swallowed him whole. He cursed at his injured leg. Then he recalled Peter's question about why he returned to the gym. The answer was simple. He had grown to love boxing. Gathering that resolve, Ryu steadied himself and forced himself to begin again. Pain spread throughout his battered body. He still remained careful despite his advantage. Pushed forward, aiming to end it within 30 seconds. Ryu absorbed a barrage of punishing hits during that span. Bell rang and spared him temporarily. In the third round, he focused on guarding tightly to recover. Jae refused to give him breathing room. Unexpectedly, Ryu clinched and halted Jae's rhythm. Pressure mounted, he clinched again. At last he was applying Peter's tactical advice. For the first time, victory seemed possible for the underdog. Even so, Jay battered through that strategy. Smaller fighter returned with fierce retaliation. Ryu regained clarity, but the gap in effort still loomed large. Third round ended, and he still lacked a clear plan. 3 more rounds passed, as Ryu wondered how much longer he could endure. Peter harshly called him a punching bag and suggested quitting. Ryu answered by repeating his coach's own teachings. He would not leave anything unfinished in the ring. Round 7 opened with Ryu reflecting on his envy. Jay had achieved greatness through relentless dedication. Ryu once relied solely on talent and wasted it like a foolish child. Observing Jin's journey taught him the meaning of steady growth. At last Ryu landed a clean punch, yet Jay countered immediately with sharper blows. Ryu accepted being outmatched and even losing. Suddenly fate intervened as Jay slipped and suffered a serious injury. His vision became impaired. Ryu attacked fiercely without hesitation. Jay accelerated his offense despite obvious tension. Fortune seemed to shift its favor. Ryu seized the instant and delivered a decisive counter that dropped Jay. Jay rose immediately, unwilling to surrender. The fight resumed with Ryu maneuvering more smoothly. He realized Jay could barely see. Life had never been fair, and this accident was not the equalizer he wanted. Ryu smashed a heavy hook into Jay as the injury worsened. He urged him to stop, but Jay kept advancing, absorbing countless strikes. Eventually, Jay lost sight entirely and relied purely on instinct. Ryu once believed he needed no one and that he stood above all, yet that illusion shattered after their clash. Jay alone had witnessed his true self. In their twisted bond, they both threw one final punch. Their fists collided against each other's faces. Ryu's body teetered on the verge of collapse. Still, he wanted Jay to see how much he had changed. The match abruptly ended in Ryu's comeback win when the doctor intervened. Ryu stood stunned at his unexpected victory. He remained guarded even as doctors examined Jay. Only sheer willpower kept him upright, and he understood his past advantages were mostly luck. He was declared the new champion, mended his fractured bond with Jay. That day he wept sincerely from the heart. Jay wanted the world to honor his triumph and anticipated future rematches. Afterward, they competed on the global stage and faced many more bouts, waiting the arrival of one last person. Ryu wondered if he owed an apology since he was the one hospitalized. He even plotted a combined attack, while Jay stood confused by his behavior. At that moment, Yu appeared with a bright and cheerful smile. He reminisced about countless memories and reflected on the different paths they were walking. As time moved forward, each of their journeys gradually reached its conclusion. Yu dedicated the remainder of his years to serving a non-profit cause. Jay went on to establish his own boxing gym. Josh's enterprise expanded beyond anything he had imagined. Han pursued a steady career in the culinary world as a chef. Kasim, the wild spirit, spent his days roaming across countries. Meanwhile, Jin devoted his life entirely to painting. Yudo Takeda managed a fruit store with Yamaguchi and lived well until old age claimed him. Marco rose to lead the boxing association to fight corruption, while his brother started a foundation to help others. Victor, once known for his mohawk, transitioned into acting. Aaron chose the path of medicine and spent his life caring for patients. As for the hero of this tale, he breathed his last while resting peacefully in Carmen's arms. Shared years were rich with meaning and left no regrets behind. Rather than becoming a beast, Yu embraced a full human life and retired from boxing at 84, with Carmen beside him in his final moments. One last time, the boxer stands in the ring as this remarkable story reaches its end.